Marry me for 30 days, or watch everything you love disappear. When a desperate single father is summoned to his billionaire boss's office, he expects to be fired. Instead, she offers him a deal that could save his drowning life, or destroy what's left of it. A fake marriage, a mountain of secrets, and 30 days to pretend love exists between two strangers. But what happens when the cameras stop rolling and the contract becomes something neither of them can walk away from? Stay until the end of this story, hit that like button, and comment your city so I can see how far this journey has traveled. The fluorescent lights in the elevator hummed like a warning as Evan Carter watched the floor numbers climb. 47, 48, 49. Each number brought him closer to what he was certain would be the worst conversation of his life. He'd been summoned, not requested, not invited, summoned by Victoria Hale herself. The email had arrived at 6:47 that morning, just 3 words and a time. My office, 9 a.m., no explanation, no context, just the kind of terse command that made grown men check their resumes and update their LinkedIn profiles. Evan shifted his weight, catching his reflection in the polished steel doors, dark circles under his eyes, a shirt he'd ironed himself badly at 5 in the morning while his 6-year-old daughter, Sophie, ate cereal at the kitchen table. A tie that had seen better years. He looked exactly like what he was, a man barely keeping his head above water. The elevator chimed. 50th floor. The doors slid open to reveal Hale Industries' executive suite, all glass and steel and the kind of cold, pristine elegance that made people like Evan feel like they were tracking dirt across a museum floor. The receptionist, Miranda, he thought her name was, glanced up with the practiced smile of someone paid to be pleasant. "Mr. Carter, she's expecting you." Of course she was. Evan nodded, his throat suddenly dry. He'd worked at Hale Industries for 3 years, managing the operations division with quiet competence that had earned him exactly 2 things: a salary that almost covered his bills and complete anonymity. He'd seen Victoria Hale exactly 4 times. Twice in company-wide meetings, where she'd been a distant figure on a stage. Once in an elevator where she'd been on her phone, not acknowledging his existence. And once in the parking garage, getting into a car that cost more than his entire apartment building. She didn't know him. Not really. Which made the summons all the more terrifying. He walked down the corridor, each step measured, past offices where people far more important than him made decisions that moved millions. His reflection followed him in the windows, a ghost in a cheap suit. Victoria's office occupied the corner of the building, windows on 2 sides offering a view of Chicago that looked like a postcard. Lake Michigan stretched blue and endless to the east. The city sprawled gray and magnificent to the south. And sitting behind a desk of dark wood and clean lines was Victoria Hale, 30 years old and in command of an empire worth $8 billion. She didn't look up when he entered. Close the door. Evan did, the click of the latch sounding like a cell door closing. He stood there, uncertain, while she finished whatever she was reading on her tablet. The silence stretched. He counted his heartbeats. 17, 18, 19. Sit. He sat. Victoria set down her tablet and finally looked at him, really looked at him. Her eyes were gray, sharp as winter, and they cataloged him in seconds. The worn shoes, the anxious posture, the fear he was trying and failing to hide. She was beautiful in the way expensive things were beautiful, flawless, untouchable, maintained with the kind of care that required both money and discipline. Dark hair pulled back. A suit that probably cost what he made in 2 months. No jewelry except a watch that was definitely not a knockoff. "You're wondering why you're here," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, ma'am." "Don't call me ma'am. It makes me sound like someone's grandmother." She leaned back in her chair, studying him with an intensity that made him want to fidget. "How much do you know about my personal life, Mr. Carter?" The question caught him off guard. "Nothing. I mean, only what everyone knows. You run the company. You're—" He stopped himself before saying rich beyond imagination. "You're very successful. Very diplomatic." The corner of her mouth might have twitched, or it might have been his imagination. "Let me be more specific. Do you know anything about my father's will?" "I know he passed away 6 months ago. I'm sorry for your loss." "Are you?" Evan blinked. Yes? You didn't know him. You're sorry because it's what people say, but I appreciate the sentiment. She stood, moving to the window, her back to him. Against the skyline, she looked small, almost fragile. My father was a brilliant man, built this company from nothing. He was also controlling, paranoid, and convinced that the only way to ensure his legacy survived was to micromanage it from beyond the grave. Evan said nothing. This felt like the kind of conversation where speaking would be a mistake. In his will, Victoria continued, still staring out at the city, he included certain conditions, requirements I must fulfill to maintain control of Hale Industries. If I fail to meet these requirements, controlling interest passes to my brother Marcus. She said the name like it tasted bad. I see, Evan said, though he didn't, not yet. No, you don't. She turned to face him, and something in her expression had shifted. The corporate mask had cracked just enough to reveal something desperate underneath. The primary condition is that I must be married for a minimum of 30 consecutive days before my 31st birthday, which is in 6 weeks. The words hung in the air between them. That's unusual, Evan managed. That's insane, but it's legally binding. My father believed that marriage would provide stability, maturity, responsibility, all the things he thought I lacked. And if I don't comply, Marcus inherits everything. Your brother is a narcissistic sociopath who would strip this company for parts and sell it to the highest bidder within a year. Her voice was flat, factual. 12,000 people work for Hale Industries. Most of them have families, mortgages, lives that depend on the stability of this company. Marcus doesn't care about any of them. He cares about himself and the fortune he'll make destroying what my father built. Evan's mind was racing, trying to understand why he was hearing this, why she was telling him these things. Ms. Hale, I'm not sure why I need a husband. The world seemed to tilt slightly. I'm sorry? I need a husband. For 30 days. Someone reliable. Someone who needs what I can offer enough to take the arrangement seriously, but who isn't connected enough to my world to have ulterior motives. She walked back to her desk, pulled out a folder, and set it in front of him. Someone like you. Evan stared at the folder like it might explode. He didn't touch it. I don't understand. It's very simple. I've done my research. You're drowning in debt. $67,000 in medical bills from your father's cancer treatment. $11,000 in credit cards. You're 4 months behind on rent. You're barely making child support payments. I make every payment, Evan interrupted, a flash of anger cutting through his confusion. Every single one. I've never missed. You're right. I apologize. You do. She nodded, acknowledging the correction. But it's destroying you. You work 10-hour days here, then do weekend shifts driving for a rideshare service. You're running yourself into the ground, and it's still not enough. Am I wrong? He wanted to argue, wanted to defend himself. But she wasn't wrong. She was exactly, perfectly, devastatingly right. What are you proposing? He asked quietly. Victoria sat down, folding her hands on the desk. A business arrangement. You marry me. We live together for 30 days, separate rooms, separate lives, but maintaining the appearance of a genuine relationship. We attend a few family events, make some public appearances. Convince the trustees of my father's estate that this is real. At the end of 30 days, assuming we've satisfied the will's requirements, we quietly divorce. In exchange, I pay off all your debts, every penny, and I establish a trust fund for your daughter that will cover her education through college. The numbers hit him like physical blows. $78,000. Gone. Just like that. And Sophie's future, the thing he lay awake worrying about every night, secured. Why me? He whispered. Because you're invisible. No offense intended, but you're not someone the media follows. You're not connected to Chicago's social scene. You're not someone my brother would immediately investigate. And because... She paused, something flickering across her face. Because I've watched you, with your daughter. When you bring her to the company picnic, when she visits your office. You're a good father. You're kind. You're honest. Those are rare qualities. Evan's hand shook as he reached for the folder. Inside were documents. Lots of documents. A prenuptial agreement, a non-disclosure agreement, a detailed schedule of events and appearances, financial records showing exactly how much debt he carried and exactly how much would be paid off. "This is insane," he said. "Yes, this could never work. It has to. People would know. They'd figure it out. People believe what they want to believe. We'll have a story, a meet-cute, a whirlwind romance, love at first sight, whatever narrative sells the fantasy." Her voice was steady, but he could hear the thread of desperation running through it. "I'm not asking you to love me, Mr. Carter. I'm asking you to pretend. For 30 days. Can you do that?" Could he? Evan thought of Sophie, 6 years old, bright as a star. She deserved dance classes and good schools and a father who didn't come home every night looking like a ghost. She deserved more than he could give her. "If I say no," he asked, "then you say no. I find someone else. You go back to your desk. Nothing changes, except—" She met his eyes. "Except I looked at 47 potential candidates before I settled on you. Most of them were terrible, greedy, stupid, ambitious in ways that would complicate everything. You're the only one I trust, and trust is the one thing I can't buy." The weight of that statement settled over him. She was trusting him, with her company, with her future, with everything. "I need to think about it," Evan said. "You have 24 hours. After that, I move on." He stood, legs unsteady, and made it to the door before her voice stopped him. "Mr. Carter?" He turned. "I know what I'm asking is impossible. I know it's insane, but sometimes impossible is all we have left." "But—" She looked smaller now, standing there in her perfect suit, in her perfect office. Human, afraid. "I'm trying to save something. You're trying to save something. Maybe we can help each other." Evan nodded, not trusting himself to speak, and left. The rest of the day passed in a blur. He sat at his desk, staring at spreadsheets without seeing them. His phone buzzed with the usual chaos, vendor issues, scheduling conflicts, budget questions, but it all felt distant, like it was happening to someone else. At 5:30, he left. The drive to pick up Sophie felt like traveling through fog. She was waiting at her after-school program, backpack almost as big as she was, face lighting up when she saw him. "Daddy!" She crashed into him, all energy and joy, and for a moment the world made sense again. "Hey, sweetheart. Good day?" "We learned about fractions, and I got a gold star on my spelling test, and Maya said I could come to her birthday party, but it cost $20 for the trampoline place, and—" She stopped, reading his face with the uncanny perception children sometimes have. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, baby. Just a long day." They drove home to the apartment, a third-floor walk-up, in a building that was one rent increase away from being condemned. The hallway smelled like old carpet and someone's cooking. Their door stuck, requiring a specific jiggle of the key and a shoulder shove. Home. Sophie did her homework at the kitchen table while Evan made dinner, spaghetti with sauce from a jar, garlic bread from the freezer. They ate together, her chattering about school while he tried to focus on her words instead of the folder in his bag. After dinner, after bath time, after reading 2 chapters of their current book, he tucked her in. She was already half asleep, clutching the stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was 2. "Daddy?" "Yeah, Soph?" "Are we going to be okay?" The question hit him in the chest. "Of course we are." "Why would you ask that?" "I heard Mrs. Chen talking to Mrs. Rodriguez. She said we might have to move, because of the rent." Damn it. He'd thought she wasn't listening. He'd hoped she wasn't old enough to understand. "We're going to be fine," he said, smoothing her hair back. "I promise. Daddy's taking care of everything." She nodded, believing him with the absolute faith of childhood. He kissed her forehead and turned out the light. In the living room, he opened the folder. The prenuptial agreement was 23 pages of legal language that boiled down to one thing. Neither of them would have any claim to the other's assets after the divorce. Clean, simple, transactional. The non-disclosure agreement was shorter but meaner. If he talked, to anyone, ever, about the true nature of the marriage, he'd face legal consequences that would bury him. The financial documents were the hardest to look at. Every dollar he owed, itemized and highlighted. $67,000 to 3 different hospitals and a collection agency. $11,000 spread across 4 credit cards. Back rent, late fees, The accumulated weight of trying and failing to keep his head above water. And then the other page, the trust fund. $500,000 held in Sophie's name, untouchable until she turned 18 except for education expenses. $500,000. Evan put his head in his hands. It was insane. It was impossible. It was a fairy tale offer from a woman who lived in a different universe than he did, but it was also a lifeline. He thought about Sophie's question, are we going to be okay? With this money, they would be more than okay. They'd be safe, secure. She could take dance lessons, go to a good school, have the childhood he'd always wanted to give her. All he had to do was lie. For 30 days. To everyone. Pretend to be in love with a woman he didn't know. Play house in her world. Smile for cameras. Attend parties. Be someone he wasn't. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Hello? Mr. Carter, it's Victoria Hale. He sat up straighter, instinctive. Ms. Hale. I'm calling to answer the question you're going to ask tomorrow. Her voice was different on the phone, quieter, less certain. Why you instead of someone from my world? Someone appropriate. Okay, he said carefully. Because everyone in my world wants something from me. Power, access, money, status. The men I've dated, the men my family approves of, they see me as an acquisition, a trophy, a means to an end. She paused. You don't know me well enough to want anything except what I'm offering, and that makes you the only honest option I have. Evan didn't know what to say to that. I'm not a good person, Mr. Carter. I'm demanding. I'm cold. I work 18-hour days and I don't suffer fools, and I've made decisions that have cost people their jobs because it was the right thing for the company. But I'm trying to protect something that matters. This company employs 12,000 people. It supports their families. It funds research that saves lives. And my brother would destroy all of it for a quick profit. Why are you telling me this? Because if you agree to this, you need to know who you're working with. I won't be a warm, loving wife. I won't be your friend. I'll be your employer, paying you for a service. But I'll be honest with you, and I'll hold up my end of the deal. That's the best I can offer. The line was silent for a moment. 24 hours, she said finally. Think about your daughter. Think about what this could mean for her. Then decide. She hung up. Evan sat in the dark apartment, listening to the sound of his daughter breathing in the next room. The building creaked. Someone's TV murmured through the wall. Outside, Chicago hummed with the endless noise of the city. He looked at the papers again. At the numbers that would change everything. 24 hours. But really, he already knew what he was going to do. Not. The next morning, Evan was back in Victoria's office at 9 sharp. He'd barely slept. Had spent the night running scenarios, imagining disasters, trying to poke holes in the plan. But every time he started to talk himself out of it, he thought of Sophie asking if they were going to be okay. Victoria looked up when he entered. She'd been reading something on her tablet, but she set it aside immediately, giving him her full attention. Mr. Carter. I have conditions, he said, her eyebrow raised slightly. Do you? Sophie can't know, not the truth. As far as she's concerned, this is real. I won't lie to her about us getting married, but I won't tell her it's fake. She's 6. She doesn't need that kind of confusion in her life. Victoria nodded slowly. Agreed. And at the end of 30 days, when this is over, you don't just disappear from her life. You do it gradually, like a normal breakup. You visit less, you're busy more. It fades out. She doesn't wake up one day, and suddenly the woman she thought was going to be her stepmother is just gone. That's thoughtful. Victoria seemed surprised. Yes, I can do that. And no matter what happens, even if this all falls apart, you still pay off my debts. That's not contingent on success. That's payment for trying. Now she smiled. Actually smiled. You drive a hard bargain, Mr. Carter. I'm protecting my daughter, same as you're protecting your company. Yes, I suppose we both have something to lose. She stood, extending her hand. Do we have a deal? Evan looked at her hand. Manicured nails, expensive watch. The hand of someone who had never worried about money in her life. He shook it. We have a deal. Good. She released his hand and moved to a cabinet, pulling out a bottle of something expensive and 2 glasses. Then we should discuss logistics. She poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into each glass and handed him one. Evan took it, feeling surreal. 24 hours ago, he'd been terrified of being fired. Now he was drinking what was probably $1,000 scotch with his billionaire boss and agreeing to marry her. "We'll get married Friday," Victoria said. "All business now. Small ceremony, city hall, just witnesses. We can't afford a big production. It would raise too many questions and take too much time. We'll announce it Monday through a company press release. Simple statement. Victoria Hale married Evan Carter in a private ceremony. We met 6 months ago, kept it quiet. Decided we didn't want to wait. People will investigate," Evan said. "They'll look into my background. Let them. You're exactly what you appear to be, a hard-working single father. There's no scandal there, no secrets that would raise red flags. If anything, it makes the story more believable. Successful CEO falls for normal guy. It's a fairy tale, but people love fairy tales. What about your family?" Her expression darkened. "My mother will be surprised, but she'll accept it. She wants me happy, even if she doesn't understand my choices. My brother Marcus is the problem. He'll know immediately that something's wrong. He'll investigate. He'll dig. He'll try to prove the marriage is a sham." "Can he?" "Not if we're careful. Not if we sell this convincingly." She took a sip of her scotch. "You'll move into my penthouse this weekend. We'll need to be seen together, comfortable together, like a real couple." "Separate rooms?" Evan asked quickly. "Separate rooms," she confirmed. "This is a business arrangement. I'm not asking for anything beyond the performance." "Okay." He drank his scotch, feeling it burn down his throat. "What about Sophie?" "She moves in with you, of course. There's plenty of space. 3 bedrooms, and one is already set up as a guest room. We can convert it to her room, make it feel like home. She's going to have questions about why this is happening so fast. Then we give her answers. You met me. You fell in love. You wanted to give her a family. It's fast, but love doesn't follow a schedule." Victoria set down her glass. Children are more adaptable than adults. As long as she feels safe and loved, she'll accept the situation. Evan hoped she was right. "There will be events," Victoria continued. "A family dinner with my mother, a company gala in 3 weeks, public appearances. Each time, we need to look like a couple in love. That means physical affection, holding hands, touching, convincing body language. I can do that. Can you?" She studied him. "Because if there's any hesitation, any awkwardness, people will notice. My brother will notice. And this entire thing falls apart." "I'm a good father," Evan said quietly. "I read bedtime stories with different voices for every character. I play Tea Party and pretend to be a princess. I've spent 6 years pretending everything is fine when I'm terrified I can't pay the rent. I can pretend to be in love with you." Something flickered in Victoria's eyes. Respect, maybe. Or sadness. "Then we'll make this work." She pulled out a calendar, and they spent the next 2 hours planning. The wedding would be Friday at 2 p.m. He'd move in Saturday. The press release would go out Monday morning, timed to coincide with a photo of them having coffee together that would be leaked to a local society blog. They'd attend a charity gala the following Saturday, their first major public appearance as a couple. Every detail was planned, every moment choreographed. It was like preparing for a corporate merger, which, Evan supposed, was exactly what it was. At 11:30, Victoria's assistant knocked. "Ms. Hale, you have the board meeting in 30 minutes. "Thank you, Jennifer." Victoria stood, smoothing her suit. "Mr. Carter, take the rest of the day off. Tomorrow, too. You'll need to give notice at your apartment, pack, prepare Sophie. I'll have movers come Saturday morning. Anything you need, you let Jennifer know and she'll handle it." "Thank you." She walked him to the door, and for just a moment her professional mask slipped. "This is going to work," she said, and he realized she was trying to convince herself as much as him. "It has to." Evan nodded. "It will." He left, walked to the elevator, rode down 50 floors, and stepped out into the Chicago morning. The city looked the same as it had yesterday. Same traffic, same noise, same gray sky. But everything had changed. He pulled out his phone and called his landlord. "Mr. Chen, it's Evan Carter. I need to talk to you about the apartment." Friday arrived faster than felt possible. Evan stood in front of the bathroom mirror in his apartment, soon to be his former apartment, adjusting his tie for the 5th time. He'd bought a new suit. Nothing fancy, but better than anything else he owned. Navy blue, fit properly. Sophie had insisted he needed to look fancy for the wedding. She was in the living room wearing a blue dress they'd found at Target, practically vibrating with excitement. She didn't understand why this was all happening so fast, but she understood that her daddy was getting married, and that meant things were going to be better. "We're going to live in a big fancy building," she'd announced to her friend Maya yesterday, "with a doorman and everything." Evan had learned about the doorman the same time Sophie had, when Victoria's assistant had emailed him the details of the penthouse. Doorman, concierge, private elevator, a world he'd only seen in movies. "Daddy," Sophie called, "we're going to be late." "Coming, sweetheart." He took one last look around the apartment. 3 years of his life here. Not good years exactly, but his years. Sophie's first day of kindergarten had started from this door. Her baby teeth were in a box in the kitchen drawer. The growth chart was marked on the bathroom doorframe, showing how she'd gone from 3 feet nothing to almost 4 feet tall. He was leaving it all behind. For a lie. For money. For Sophie's future. "Okay," he said quietly to his reflection. "You can do this." The taxi ride to City Hall was Sophie's idea of adventure. She pressed her nose to the window, counting buildings, pointing out dogs, narrating everything she saw. Evan held her hand and tried to slow his racing heart. Victoria was waiting on the steps, and Evan's breath caught. She'd chosen to wear not white, but a sophisticated cream-colored dress that fell just below her knees. Simple, elegant. Her hair was down, softening her features. She looked almost nervous. "Hi." Sophie bounded up the steps before Evan could stop her. "You look really pretty." Victoria's expression softened in a way Evan had never seen before. She crouched down to Sophie's level. "Thank you, so do you. I love your dress. Daddy bought it for me special, because this is a special day." Sophie grabbed her hand. "Are you excited?" "Very excited," Victoria said, and if Evan didn't know better, he'd almost believe her. The ceremony was quick and bloodless. A tired-looking clerk read the vows in a monotone that suggested she'd done this 1,000 times before. Victoria had brought 2 witnesses, her personal lawyer and her assistant, Jennifer, both sworn to secrecy. They signed the papers. The clerk pronounced them married. "You may kiss the bride." Evan froze. They hadn't discussed this, hadn't practiced. He looked at Victoria, panicked, and saw his own uncertainty reflected back. "Kiss her, Daddy," Sophie stage whispered. So he did, carefully, briefly. A press of lips that was technically a kiss but felt more like a handshake. Victoria's lips were soft and she smelled like something expensive, and when they pulled apart, her cheeks were slightly flushed. "Congratulations," the clerk said, sounding bored. They were married. Sophie cheered. Outside on the steps, Victoria's assistant took photos on her phone. "For the press release," she explained. Evan and Victoria stood close, his arm around her waist, both of them smiling. Sophie jumped into the frame for the last few shots, making silly faces that actually made Victoria laugh. "Lunch?" Victoria suggested. "There's a place nearby that Sophie might like." They went to a family restaurant, the kind with crayons and a kids' menu, which seemed absurdly normal for someone like Victoria. But she sat across from Evan, helped Sophie color a picture of a dinosaur, and ate a burger without complaint. For an hour, they almost looked like a real family. "So what happens now?" Sophie asked through a mouthful of fries. "Do we go on a honeymoon?" "Not yet," Victoria said smoothly. "Daddy and I both have to work. But tomorrow we're all moving to my apartment together. You'll have your own room. You can decorate it however you want." "Can I have a purple wall?" "Absolutely." Sophie beamed. Evan felt his chest tighten. This little girl believed in fairy tales, believed her daddy had found love, believed they were going to be a real family. He was lying to his daughter. For the first time since agreeing to this, Evan felt the full weight of what he'd done. Saturday morning came with chaos. The movers Victoria had hired descended on Evan's apartment like a well-organized army, packing his entire life into boxes with ruthless efficiency. Sophie supervised, making sure her stuffed animals were handled very carefully, please. By noon, they were standing in the lobby of Victoria's building, Sophie gripping Evan's hand and staring up at the chandelier with wide eyes. Daddy, are we allowed to be here? We live here now, sweetheart. The private elevator required a key. It rose silently, smoothly, nothing like the shuddering death trap in their old building. When the doors opened, they opened directly into Victoria's penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Hardwood floors. Modern furniture that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Art on the walls that was probably worth more than Evan had made in his entire life. A kitchen with appliances he didn't recognize. Holy... Evan caught himself. Wow. Your room is this way, Sophie, Victoria said, appearing from somewhere deeper in the apartment. She'd changed into jeans and a sweater, looking more human than Evan had ever seen her. Come on, I'll show you. She led Sophie down a hallway to a bedroom that was bigger than their entire old living room. Empty now, but with huge windows and cream-colored walls waiting for that purple paint Sophie wanted. We can paint tomorrow, Victoria said, and you can pick out furniture. Whatever you want. Sophie threw her arms around Victoria's waist. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Victoria looked startled, her hands hovering uncertainly before finally settling on Sophie's shoulders. You're welcome. Evan's room was across the hall, also enormous, also empty except for a bed and a dresser. Clean, impersonal, like a nice hotel. Master bedroom is at the end of the hall, Victoria said, noticing his look. That's mine. There's a guest bathroom between our rooms that you're welcome to use. Office is on the other side of the living room if you need space to work. Kitchen is, well, you saw the kitchen. This is... Evan shook his head. This is incredible. It's a place to live. She crossed her arms, suddenly awkward. I've arranged for a housekeeper to come twice a week. She'll do cleaning, laundry, that kind of thing. If Sophie has dietary restrictions or preferences, let me know and I'll make sure the kitchen is stocked. Victoria? He waited until she looked at him. Thank you. Really? This is more than I ever... Thank you. She nodded stiffly. It benefits both of us. You needed a place to live. I needed a husband who appears to actually live with me. It's practical. But her cheeks were pink and she looked away quickly. The rest of the day was spent unpacking. Sophie's room filled with her treasures, stuffed animals, books, toys, the growth chart carefully removed from the old apartment's doorframe and propped against the wall waiting to be hung. Evan's room remained sparse. He didn't have much. That night, Victoria ordered Chinese food, enough for a small army, and they ate together at the dining table. Sophie chattered about her new room, her new building, the view of the lake. Victoria listened, asked questions, seemed genuinely interested. Bath time, Evan announced when Sophie started yawning into her lo mein. Can Victoria read me a story? Sophie asked. Both adults froze. I don't... Victoria started. Please. Just one story? Evan looked at Victoria, seeing panic in her eyes. You don't have to... No, it's fine. I can read a story. 20 minutes later, Evan stood in the doorway of Sophie's room, watching Victoria Hale, CEO of an $8 billion company, sitting on the edge of a twin bed reading Charlotte's Web to a 6-year-old. She wasn't very good at it. Her voice was stilted, uncertain, like she'd never read out loud before. But Sophie didn't care. She was already half asleep, clutching her rabbit, a small smile on her face. When Victoria finished the chapter and stood, Evan nodded toward the hallway. They stepped out, pulling the door almost closed. Thank you, he said quietly. She's a sweet kid. Victoria looked uncomfortable. You've done a good job with her. I'm trying. They stood there in the hallway, this woman he'd married yesterday and barely knew, and the silence stretched between them. This is strange, Victoria said finally. Yeah. We're essentially strangers living together. Yeah. Playing house. Yeah. She almost smiled. Very articulate, Mr. Carter. It's been a weird few days. Yes, it has. She glanced back at Sophie's door. She believes this is real, that we're really married, really in love. I know. Does that bother you? Evan considered. Yes, but it would bother me more to see her living in that old apartment, wondering if we're going to be okay, growing up without opportunities because I couldn't afford them. So I guess I'm choosing which lie I can live with. Victoria studied him for a long moment. "You're a good father," she said quietly. "She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her." They said goodnight. Evan closed himself in his room and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the city lights outside his window. Somewhere out there was his old life, his old apartment, his old struggles. Here was his new lie. 30 days. He could do this for 30 days. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "Press release goes out Monday at 9 a.m. Be prepared for attention. My lawyer will handle any media requests. Just refer everyone to the company PR department." Evan typed back. "Understood." Then, "Thank you again for all of this." The three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "We're helping each other. That's the deal." Evan set his phone aside and lay back on a bed that probably cost more than his car. Through the wall, he could hear Sophie's soft snoring. Down the hall, he heard Victoria moving around in her room. His wife, for 30 days. The thought made him laugh, a quiet, slightly hysterical sound in the dark. What had he gotten himself into? Monday morning arrived with the subtlety of an avalanche. The press release went out at 9 sharp, and by 9:15, Evan's phone was exploding. Texts from former coworkers, calls from numbers he didn't recognize, a voicemail from his ex-wife demanding to know what the hell was going on. He ignored all of it. At the office, because yes, he still had to work his normal job, people stared, whispered. His desk became a destination for casual walk-bys from people who'd never spoken to him before. "Evan, congrats, man. Didn't know you were dating the boss. You're a dark horse, Carter." He smiled, thanked them, offered no details. By noon, he was ready to hide in a supply closet. His phone rang. "Victoria." "How bad is it?" she asked. "I'm officially the most interesting person in the operations division." "It'll die down. Give it a few days. People have short attention spans." She paused. "There's a family dinner Thursday night. My mother wants to meet you." Evan's stomach dropped. "Already?" "She's persistent. We can't avoid her forever, and it's better to do this early. Get it over with." "What do I need to know?" "She's formidable. She'll ask invasive questions. She'll judge every answer, but she means well, mostly." Victoria sighed. "Just be yourself. Be honest, to the extent that we can be. She'll respect that more than trying to impress her." "Okay. And Evan?" Her voice softened. "Sophie can come. In fact, it might help. My mother has a weakness for children." Thursday came too fast. Evan dressed Sophie in her Sunday best and tried to calm his nerves. They met Victoria at her mother's estate, because of course she had an estate, a sprawling property north of the city that looked like something out of a period drama. "Remember," Victoria murmured as they walked to the door, "we met at a company event 6 months ago. Started dating casually. It got serious fast. We didn't tell anyone because we wanted privacy." "Got it." The door opened before they could knock. A woman in her 60s stood there, elegant and sharp-eyed, her gaze sweeping over Evan and Sophie with the precision of a laser. "Mother," Victoria said. "Victoria." Her mother's attention fixed on Evan. "So this is the man who convinced my daughter to do something impulsive for the first time in her life." Evan extended his hand. "Evan Carter, ma'am. It's a pleasure to meet you." She shook his hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Margot Hale, and you've brought a child." "This is my daughter, Sophie." Sophie, bless her, executed a perfect little curtsy she must have seen in a movie somewhere. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Hale." Margot's expression cracked, just slightly. "Well, you've taught her manners at least. Come in, dinner is ready." The dining room could have seated 20. The 4 of them looked lost in it. Dinner was served by actual staff, which made Evan feel like he was in a movie. Sophie was on her best behavior, using her napkin, saying please and thank you, charming Margot without even trying. "So, Mr. Carter," Margot said over the main course, "tell me about yourself. And please don't recite your resume. I've already read it." Of course she had. "I grew up in Indiana," Evan said. "Small town. My dad was a mechanic, mom was a teacher. I came to Chicago for college. Stayed because I liked the city. Met my ex-wife. Had Sophie. Got divorced when Sophie was 2. I've been working at Hale Industries for 3 years. And before that, 2 other companies, marketing, operations, nothing glamorous. And you think you're good enough for my daughter? Mother, Victoria started. It's okay, Evan said. He met Margot's eyes. No, ma'am, I don't think I'm good enough for Victoria. She's brilliant and driven and accomplished in ways I'll never be. But I think I can make her happy. And I think she makes me better. That's enough for me. The table was silent. Margot studied him, her expression unreadable. At least you're honest, she said finally. She turned to Victoria. You're sure about this? This isn't some corporate strategy I don't understand? Victoria's hand found Evan's under the table, squeezing once. I'm sure he's good for me. Margot's gaze went back and forth between them, looking for the lie, searching for the crack in the facade. Evan held his breath. Very well, Margot said. Welcome to the family, Mr. Carter. Though I reserve the right to judge you harshly if you hurt her. That's fair. The rest of dinner was easier. Margot asked Sophie about school, about her interests, about her favorite books. She asked Evan about his work, his background, his plans for the future. Every question felt like a test. Every answer was weighed and measured. When they finally left 2 hours later, Evan felt like he'd run a marathon. You did well, Victoria said in the car. Sophie had fallen asleep in the back seat. She liked you, as much as she likes anyone. She's terrifying. Yes, but she's also perceptive. If she'd thought this was fake, she would have said something. The fact that she didn't means we're convincing. Or she's choosing to believe because she wants you to be happy. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Maybe. They drove in silence for a while, the city passing outside the windows. My brother will be at the gala Saturday, Victoria said. He'll be looking for any sign that this isn't real, any crack in the story. Then we won't give him one. She looked at him, something unreadable in her expression. You're very confident. I'm very motivated. There's a difference. When they got home, and it was strange how quickly Evan had started thinking of the penthouse as home, he carried sleeping Sophie to her room, now properly decorated with her purple accent wall and new furniture. He tucked her in, kissed her forehead, turned out the light. In the hallway, Victoria was waiting. Thank you, she said, for tonight, for playing the part so well. It's getting easier. Is it? He didn't know how to answer that. The lie was getting easier. The performance was becoming natural, and that should have worried him more than it did. Saturday, Victoria said. The gala. It's our first real test. Everyone will be watching, my brother especially. We need to be perfect. We will be. You sound so sure. I have to be. For Sophie. For you. For both of us. Victoria reached out, hesitated, then put her hand on his arm. Just for a second. Good night, Evan. Good night. He watched her walk to her room, the door closing softly behind her. Then he went to his own room, lay on his expensive bed, and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere in the last few days, something had shifted. The apartment felt less strange. Victoria felt less like a stranger. Sophie was happy. He was sleeping through the night for the first time in months, not waking in a panic about bills and rent and the future. The lie was working, and that terrified him more than anything, because in 23 days it would all be over. The marriage would dissolve. Victoria would go back to her life. He and Sophie would go back to theirs. Debt-free, yes. Secure, yes. But separate. He'd signed up for a business arrangement. He'd agreed to pretend. So why did it already feel like he was going to lose something real? The morning of the gala arrived wrapped in tension. Evan woke to find Sophie already up, sitting at the kitchen counter eating cereal while Victoria, dressed in workout clothes and nursing a coffee, reviewed something on her tablet. The scene was so domestic it made his chest ache. Morning, he said. Victoria glanced up. Morning. There's coffee made, and Jennifer is coming by at 2 to go over tonight's details. Details for what? Sophie asked, milk dribbling down her chin. A party, Victoria said, reaching over to wipe Sophie's face with a napkin in a gesture so natural it seemed like she'd been doing it for years. A work party, very boring. Lots of adults in fancy clothes talking about boring things. Can I come? Not this one, sweetheart, Evan said, but Mrs. Chen from downstairs, from our old building, is going to come stay with you. Movie night, remember? Sophie's face brightened. Oh yeah, can we make popcorn? Absolutely. The day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Evan tried to work from the penthouse office, but he couldn't focus. His tuxedo, rented, despite Victoria's offer to buy one, hung on the back of the door like an accusation. At 2 o'clock sharp, Jennifer arrived with a leather portfolio and the efficiency of a military commander. "All right," she said, spreading documents across the dining table. "Tonight is critical. The Midwest Business Alliance Gala. 500 attendees. Press will be there. Your brother has confirmed he's attending," she said to Victoria, who nodded grimly. "Photos will be everywhere by tomorrow morning. We need to be strategic." She pulled out a seating chart. "You'll be at table 4 with the Henderson family, the Rodriguezes, and Marcus. He specifically requested that table." "Of course he did," Victoria muttered. "What's his angle?" Evan asked. Jennifer and Victoria exchanged a look. It was Victoria who answered. "He wants to watch us up close. See if we slip. He's probably convinced himself this is fake, but he can't prove it yet. Tonight he'll be looking for proof. So we don't give him any." "It's not that simple," Jennifer said. "Marcus is smart. He'll push. He'll ask invasive questions. He'll try to separate you, get different stories, find inconsistencies. Then our stories need to be consistent." Evan pulled the documents closer. "Walk me through it. Everything. How we met. When. What I said. What she said. First date. First kiss. Everything." They spent the next 2 hours rehearsing. The narrative was simple enough. They'd met at a company event 6 months ago, struck up a conversation about something mundane, market analysis, Jennifer suggested, and discovered they had chemistry. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into weekends. It was fast, yes, but sometimes things just clicked. They'd kept it quiet because Victoria valued her privacy, and Evan didn't want Sophie getting attached to someone who might not be permanent. When they decided to get married, it felt right to do it quickly, privately, without fanfare. "What's her favorite color?" Jennifer asked Evan. He looked at Victoria. "I don't know." "Navy blue," Victoria said. "What's his?" She hesitated. "I don't know either." Jennifer sighed. These are the things Marcus will ask. The small details couples know about each other. Favorite foods, pet peeves, morning routines. So they kept going. Victoria liked her coffee black, 2 cups before she could function. Evan was a 1-cup guy, cream and sugar. She hated mornings, was sharpest between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. He was an early riser. Best thinking happened before 8. She read business journals for fun. He read thriller novels to Sophie before bed, doing all the voices. She was allergic to strawberries. He couldn't stand mushrooms. She slept on the left side of the bed. He slept on the right. "Good," Jennifer said, making notes. "These details matter. Use them. Reference them. Make them feel lived in." By the time she left, Evan's head was spinning with information. He retreated to his room to get ready, trying to calm his nerves. The tuxedo fit well enough. He struggled with the bow tie until there was a knock on his door. "Need help?" Victoria stood in the doorway wearing a robe, her hair already styled, makeup half done. "I've watched 3 YouTube videos and I still can't get this thing right." She crossed the room, her bare feet silent on the hardwood, and reached up to his collar. "My father taught me. Said every person should know how to tie a proper bow tie." Her fingers worked quickly, efficiently, and Evan tried not to notice how close she was. The faint scent of her perfume, the concentration on her face. "There." She stepped back. He turned to the mirror. "Perfect." "Thank you." "You look good," she said, and there was something in her voice he couldn't quite identify. "Very handsome. You haven't even gotten dressed yet." "I will. She hesitated. "I wanted to make sure you're okay. With tonight. With all of this." "I'm fine." "Evan, be honest." He met her eyes. "I'm terrified. Your brother sounds like someone who could destroy us with a look. Everyone there will be from your world, not mine. I'm going to spend the whole night worried I'll use the wrong fork or say the wrong thing or somehow blow this entire charade." Victoria's expression softened. "You're not going to blow anything. You're smart and kind and genuine, which is more than most people in that room can say. Just be yourself. That's the person I chose for this. That's who they need to see." "The person you chose because I was invisible and desperate." "No." She said it firmly. "The person I chose because you're decent. Because when I looked at 47 candidates, you were the only one who made me think this might actually work. The only one I could trust. The word hung between them. Trust. Such a fragile thing to build a lie on. Mrs. Chen arrived at 6 to watch Sophie, who was already in her pajamas and ready for movie night. Evan kissed his daughter goodbye, promised to tell her all about the boring party tomorrow, and tried to ignore the way her eyes lit up when she saw Victoria in her gown. Because Victoria in her gown was stunning, midnight blue, off the shoulder, fitted in a way that was elegant rather than provocative. Her hair swept up, diamond earrings catching the light. She looked like she belonged in a magazine, on a red carpet, anywhere but standing in their shared living room waiting for him. "Wow," Sophie breathed. "You look like a princess." "Thank you, sweetheart." Victoria crouched down, careful of her dress. "You be good for Mrs. Chen, okay?" "I will." "Are you and Daddy going to dance?" "Maybe." "You should. Daddy's a good dancer. He dances with me all the time." Victoria glanced at Evan, amused. "Is that so?" "Mostly to Disney songs," Evan admitted. "I'm not sure that counts." "It counts," Victoria said, standing. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be." The car service Victoria had arranged was waiting downstairs. They settled into the back of the black sedan, the city lights sliding past the windows. Evan was hyper-aware of Victoria beside him, the small space between them on the seat, the way her dress whispered when she moved. "Remember," she said quietly, "we're in love, we're newlyweds. We can't keep our hands off each other." "Right." She reached over and took his hand. Her fingers were cool, slim, her grip firm. "Like this. Natural, comfortable. Like we've done it 1,000 times." Evan laced his fingers through hers. "How's this?" "Perfect." She didn't let go. "When we walk in, there will be photographers. Smile. Look happy to be with me. Put your hand on the small of my back. Proprietary but respectful. Okay? When we're seated, sit close. Touch my arm when you talk to me. I'll do the same. Couples in love have a physical language. We need to speak it fluently." The hotel hosting the gala was one of those grand old Chicago establishments, all marble and gold and crystal chandeliers. The red carpet, because of course there was a red carpet, was lined with photographers. Evan felt his stomach drop. "Ready?" Victoria asked. "No." She smiled, and it transformed her face, made her look younger, softer, happy. "That's the spirit." She squeezed his hand. "Show time." The car door opened. Sound and light rushed in. Victoria stepped out first, graceful and confident, and turned back to take Evan's hand as he followed. The cameras started flashing immediately. Victoria moved close to him, her hand resting on his chest, his arm automatically going around her waist, just like Jennifer had coached. "Mr. Carter, Miss Hale, look here. How does it feel to be married? When's the honeymoon?" Victoria's smile never wavered. She leaned into Evan, whispered, "Just keep walking. Don't answer. Let them wonder." They made it through the gauntlet and into the hotel lobby. The moment they were away from the cameras, Victoria's smile dimmed slightly, but she didn't step away from him. If anything, she stayed closer. "You did great," she murmured. "I didn't do anything." "Exactly. You look natural, comfortable, like you belong next to me." She glanced around the lobby, scanning faces. "Marcus isn't here yet. Let's get a drink before we have to deal with him." The ballroom was spectacular. Round tables draped in white, centerpieces of white roses and crystal, a stage set up for speeches and awards. Waitstaff circulated with champagne. A string quartet played something classical in the corner. Everyone looked expensive. The men in tuxedos, the women in gowns that probably cost more than Evan's old car. "Victoria!" A couple approached, the woman air-kissing both of Victoria's cheeks. "We heard the news. Married. We couldn't believe it." "Believe it," Victoria said smoothly. "Rebecca, Tom, this is my husband, Evan." Husband. The word still sounded surreal. "Pleasure," Evan said, shaking hands. "How did you two meet?" Rebecca asked, her eyes gleaming with curiosity that felt more predatory than friendly. Victoria launched into their prepared story, and Evan watched her work. She was so good at this. The performance, the charm, the careful balance of warmth and distance. She made it sound real, made it sound like she'd actually fallen in love with him over market analysis and coffee. "And you just knew," Rebecca pressed. "I just knew," Victoria confirmed, her hand finding Evan's. Sometimes you meet someone and everything just fits. They were approached 5 more times before they even made it to their table. Each time, Victoria told the story with slight variations, small personal details that made it feel authentic. Each time, Evan played his part, the quiet, steady presence beside her, the man who'd somehow won the heart of Chicago's most eligible bachelorette. "You're a natural," he murmured when they finally had a moment alone. "I've had practice. Corporate negotiations aren't so different from social ones. You assess what people want to hear, and you give it to them." She paused. "That sounded more cynical than I meant it. But accurate." "Yes, but accurate." They found their table. The Hendersons were already seated, older couple, probably in their 60s, money old enough to have patience. The Rodriguezes arrived shortly after, younger, tech industry money, sharp-eyed and ambitious. And then Marcus made his entrance. Evan recognized him immediately, though they'd never met. He had Victoria's coloring, but where she was all sharp edges and controlled elegance, Marcus was smooth, polished. He wore his tuxedo like armor and his smile like a weapon. "Sister," he said, kissing Victoria's cheek, "congratulations on your impulsive decision." "Marcus," Victoria's voice could have frozen water. "This is Evan, my husband." Marcus extended his hand and Evan shook it. The grip was too firm, the eye contact too intense. A test. "Evan Carter, I've heard absolutely nothing about you, which is fascinating considering my sister and I talk regularly." "We kept things private," Victoria said. "So I've heard, very private, very sudden, almost suspicious." Marcus sat down, still smiling. "But I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation." The dinner proceeded with all the warmth of a corporate merger. Marcus asked questions, casual, friendly questions that felt like interrogation. Where did Evan grow up? What did his parents do? How had he ended up at Hale Industries? What were his ambitions? Evan answered truthfully. There was no point in lying about verifiable facts. Marcus probably already had a dossier on him. "And you have a daughter," Marcus said, "from a previous marriage." "Yes, Sophie, she's 6. How does she feel about all this? Sudden new stepmother, new life." "She's adjusting well. Victoria's been wonderful with her." Marcus glanced at his sister. "You, wonderful with children. That's a new development." "People change," Victoria said coolly. "Do they? Or do they pretend to change when it serves their purposes?" The table had gone quiet. Even the Hendersons, who'd been politely ignoring the siblings' tension, were paying attention now. "What are you implying, Marcus?" Victoria asked. "Nothing at all. Just expressing surprise. 6 months ago, you told me you had no interest in marriage or children, said they were distractions from what mattered. And now here you are, married to someone you've never mentioned, playing stepmother to a 6-year-old. It's quite the transformation." Evan felt Victoria tense beside him. He reached over, covered her hand with his. "People say a lot of things before they meet the right person. I know I did. I thought I was done with relationships after my divorce. Thought I'd focus on work and raising Sophie, and that would be enough. Then I met Victoria, and everything changed." How romantic. Marcus's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Tell me, how exactly did you meet? The official story is a company event, but that's rather vague." "The quarterly shareholders meeting," Evan said, 6 months ago. There was a reception afterward. I was there representing our division, and Victoria was making the rounds. We ended up at the same buffet table, both reaching for the same shrimp toast. Victoria picked up the thread without missing a beat. "I told him to take it. He insisted I take it. We compromised and split it. Over shrimp toast." Marcus looked skeptical. "It was very good shrimp toast," Evan said. "We started talking about the presentation, about market projections. She said something that made me laugh. I don't even remember what. And I thought, this woman is brilliant and funny, and I'd like to know her better." "So you asked her out?" "I did, fully expecting to be rejected, but she said yes." "I said yes," Victoria confirmed, "because he was the first person in months who talked to me like a human being instead of a title. No agenda, no networking, just genuine conversation. But it was a good story. It was their story, polished and practiced. But Marcus wasn't buying it. And then you dated for 6 months in complete secrecy." "We valued our privacy," Victoria said. "Neither of us wanted the scrutiny that comes with a public relationship." How convenient. The servers arrived with the main course, interrupting the interrogation. Evan picked up his fork, trying to remember which one to use, and felt Victoria's hand on his knee under the table. A brief squeeze. Reassurance. Or warning. Dinner dragged on. Marcus continued his subtle assault, questioning everything, poking at their story, looking for holes. But Victoria was unshakable, and Evan followed her lead. They'd prepared for this, rehearsed it. Their answers matched, their timeline held, their details aligned. When the speeches started, Marcus leaned back in his chair, watching them with narrow eyes. Evan kept his arm around the back of Victoria's chair, kept up the appearance of casual affection. But he could feel the scrutiny like a physical weight. "He knows," Victoria whispered during the applause for one of the speakers. "He suspects." "Same thing." "No, suspicion isn't proof. We just need to hold the line." After dinner came dancing. The string quartet gave way to a live band, and couples filled the dance floor. Victoria stood, offering her hand. "Dance with me." It wasn't a request. Evan took her hand and let her lead him to the floor. Other couples moved around them, the music slow and romantic. He put one hand on her waist, held her other hand in his, and tried to remember how to do this without stepping on her feet. "You weren't lying," Victoria said as they moved. "You can dance." "Sophie's a demanding teacher." She laughed, and the sound was so genuine it caught him off guard. "I can imagine." They danced in silence for a moment. Victoria felt light in his arms, graceful, and he found himself relaxing into the movement. This close, he could see the faint dusting of freckles her makeup didn't quite hide, the exact color of her eyes, more green than gray in this light. "You're staring," she said. "Sorry, just trying to look like a man in love with his wife." "Are you succeeding?" "You tell me." She studied his face. "Yes, you look like someone who cares very much about the person he's holding. It's convincing." "Good." He spun her, maybe showing off a little, and she followed the movement perfectly. "We're being watched." "I know, Marcus, 3:00. Evan didn't look, didn't need to. He could feel the weight of that stare. "What do we do?" "This." Victoria moved closer, closing the already small distance between them. Her head rested against his shoulder, her hand slipping from his shoulder to his chest. To anyone watching, they looked like newlyweds, completely absorbed in each other. To Evan, it felt dangerously real. "Talk to me," Victoria murmured. "Say something. Make me laugh." "Sophie told me yesterday that she wants to be a paleontologist when she grows up." "That's sweet." "Last week she wanted to be a mermaid. Week before that, an astronaut. I'm trying to keep up." Victoria did laugh then, soft against his shoulder. "She's 6. She has time to figure it out." "Did you always know what you wanted to be?" "CEO? Yes. From the time I was 12 and my father brought me to the office. I watched him command a room and thought, I want that. That power, that respect, the ability to build something that matters." "And have you? Built something that matters?" She lifted her head to look at him. "I'm trying to." That's what all of this is about. Keeping the company out of Marcus's hands. Making sure it survives to do good work. Employing 12,000 people. Yes. Among other things. She paused. "Does that seem cold, calculating, measuring the value of my life's work in employment numbers?" "No, it seems practical, responsible. Those 12,000 people depend on you. That's not nothing." Something shifted in her expression, softened. "Thank you." "For what?" "For understanding. Most people don't." The song was ending. Another couple bumped into them, apologizing. Victoria stepped back, the moment breaking. "We should circulate, be seen, work the room." They spent the next hour doing exactly that. Meeting people, shaking hands. Victoria introduced him as her husband, and Evan played the role of supportive spouse, asking questions, laughing at jokes, staying slightly in the background while she shone. It was exhausting. Around 11, Victoria's phone buzzed. She checked it, frowned, and showed Evan the screen. A text from Jennifer. "Your mother called. Wanted to make sure I saw the photos. She's pleased. Says you look happy." "That's good, right?" Evan said. "Yes. If my mother's convinced, most people will be." Victoria slipped her phone back into her clutch. One more hour, Then we can leave." But Marcus found them before they could escape. He appeared at Victoria's elbow, 2 glasses of champagne in hand, offering one to her with a smile that was all teeth. "Sister, we should talk, privately. Anything you need to say, you can say in front of Evan. I'd prefer privacy, and I'd prefer you respect my marriage." Evan stays. Marcus's smile tightened. "Fine. Then let me be direct. This whole thing is a farce. I don't know what you're playing at, but I will find out. And when I do, when I prove this marriage is a sham designed to circumvent Father's will, I will take everything from you." "There's nothing to find," Victoria said, her voice ice. "I married Evan because I love him. I know that's a foreign concept to you, actually caring about another human being, but try to wrap your head around it." "Love," Marcus laughed. "You don't know how to love. You only know how to control, to manipulate, to play games. This man," he gestured at Evan dismissively, "is a pawn, a means to an end, and when you're done with him, you'll discard him like you discard everyone." Evan had stayed quiet through most of Marcus's attacks, but that was too much. "You don't know anything about your sister, or me, or what we have." "Don't I? I know she's desperate. I know she'd do anything to keep the company, including marrying some nobody from the operations division and pretending it's love." "Marcus," Victoria's voice could have cut glass, "you need to leave, now." "Or what? You'll make a scene? That would be bad publicity, wouldn't it? The new bride attacking her own brother at a charity gala." He stepped closer. "I'm going to destroy this little fantasy you've built. I'm going to prove what this really is, and when I do, you'll lose everything. The company, your reputation, all of it." He walked away, leaving them standing there, the threat hanging in the air like smoke. "We need to go," Victoria said quietly. "Now." They made their excuses, retrieved their coats, and escaped to the waiting car. The moment the door closed behind them, Victoria's composure cracked. She leaned her head back against the seat, closing her eyes. "He's going to dig. He's going to investigate every detail of our story. Let him. We've been careful. Have we? What if there's something we missed, some detail that doesn't line up, some person who'll say they never saw us together before the wedding? Then we deal with it, but panicking won't help." She opened her eyes, looking at him. "You're very calm. One of us has to be. Evan." She reached over, took his hand. The gesture was becoming familiar. "If this falls apart, if Marcus finds proof, you'll still get paid. I promise that. You tried. That's enough. It's not about the money anymore." The words were out before he could stop them. Victoria stared at him. "What?" "I mean," he scrambled for recovery, "it's not just about the money. It's about Sophie, about the stability, about not letting your brother win because he's a vindictive—" "Evan," he stopped. "What did you mean?" He couldn't tell her the truth, that somewhere between the rehearsed stories and the shared dinners and the way she read to Sophie at night, this had stopped feeling like a transaction. That when he held her on the dance floor, he hadn't been pretending. That the thought of this ending in 3 weeks made his chest tight. "I meant that we're in this together now. Your problems are my problems. That's what partners do." She studied him for a long moment. "Partners. Yes. Right." She let go of his hand, looked away. "Of course." The rest of the ride passed in silence. When they got home, Mrs. Chen reported that Sophie had been an angel, watched 2 movies, and gone to bed at 9:30 without complaint. Victoria paid her, thanked her, and disappeared into her bedroom without another word. Evan checked on Sophie, sleeping peacefully, rabbit clutched tight, and then retreated to his own room. He loosened his bow tie, remembering Victoria's hands doing the same thing just hours ago. Took off the tuxedo, hung it carefully, sat on the edge of his bed. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Congratulations on your marriage, Mr. Carter. I look forward to learning more about it." Marcus Hale. Evan deleted it, then blocked the number, then sat there wondering how Marcus had gotten his personal cell in the first place. A soft knock on his door. "Come in." Victoria stood in the doorway in silk pajamas, her makeup scrubbed off, hair down. She looked younger, more vulnerable. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" "For Marcus. For exposing you to that. For dragging you into my family's dysfunction. You warned me. I knew what I was signing up for." Did you? Really? She stepped into the room, wrapped her arms around herself. He's going to make this hell. He's going to dig into every aspect of your life. Your ex-wife, your work history, your finances, your daughter. Nothing will be private. Let him dig. There's nothing to find except a guy trying to make ends meet and raise his kid. He'll find the debt payments, the ones I made. Husbands pay off their wives' debts all the time. Wives pay off husbands' debts. It's what married people do. She smiled, sad and small. You have an answer for everything. I'm trying to help. I know, and that's... She stopped, shook her head. Never mind. What? Nothing. I should let you sleep. Tomorrow's Sunday. Maybe we could do something with Sophie. Make this feel more normal. She'd love that. There's a children's museum she's been wanting to go to. Then we'll go, as a family. Victoria said the word carefully, like she was testing how it felt. Get some rest. And Evan? Yeah? Tonight, the dancing. Thank you for making it easy. It was easy. She looked at him for a long moment, something uncertain in her expression, then left. Evan lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Marcus's threat playing on repeat in his head. The man was going to come after them with everything he had. Every detail would be scrutinized, every moment examined. They had to be perfect, not just at events, but everywhere, all the time, which meant the performance couldn't end when they came home. It had to be constant, lived in, real, or at least real enough to fool everyone watching. The thought should have made him anxious. Instead, it made him think about Victoria's hand in his, her laugh against his shoulder, the way she looked at him when she thought he wasn't paying attention. This was getting complicated, and they still had 22 days to go. Sunday morning brought unexpected normalcy. Evan woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Sophie's laughter echoing from the kitchen. He found them there, his daughter perched on a stool at the counter, Victoria beside her, both of them covered in flour. We're making pancakes, Sophie announced. Victoria's teaching me. Teaching is a strong word, Victoria said, wiping a streak of flour from her cheek and somehow making it worse. I'm mostly following the instructions on the box while Sophie provides creative direction. They're going to be shaped like dinosaurs, Sophie explained seriously, because that's more interesting than circles. Evan leaned against the doorframe, watching them. Victoria's hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore an old t-shirt and yoga pants, and she was completely focused on helping Sophie pour batter into vaguely dinosaur-shaped puddles on the griddle. The sight did something strange to his chest. Coffee? Victoria asked, glancing up. Please. She poured him a cup, their fingers brushing as she handed it over. Such a small thing, such an innocent touch, but Evan felt it like electricity. The pancakes were misshapen and slightly burned, but Sophie was proud of them, so they ate every bite. After breakfast, they got ready for the children's museum. Sophie talked non-stop about the exhibit she wanted to see, bouncing between pieds with the attention span of a 6-year-old on Sunday morning. We should take the car, Victoria said. It's only a few blocks. We could walk. With photographers potentially following us? Better to be safe. She grabbed her phone, texted someone. Besides, it's cold out. Sophie will be more comfortable. The car arrived within minutes. Sophie was thrilled by the whole thing. The private car, the museum, the fact that Victoria held her hand as they walked through the exhibits. They spent 3 hours there. Victoria knelt next to Sophie at the dinosaur display, reading facts from the placards. She helped build towers in the construction zone. She even crawled through the kid-sized cave system, her expensive jeans getting dusty, not caring at all. Evan took photos, lots of photos. Officially, for the sake of appearances, couples documented their lives together. But really, because the sight of Victoria laughing as Sophie showed her how to use the bubble machine was something he wanted to remember. She's good with her, a woman said to Evan at one point. Another parent, watching her own kids play. Your wife, natural. Yeah, Evan said, she is. And it was true. Whatever Victoria thought about herself, whatever walls she maintained in her corporate life, with Sophie, she was patient and present and genuinely engaged. When Sophie grabbed her hand to drag her to the next exhibit, Victoria went willingly, a smile on her face that looked nothing like the careful masks she wore at galas. They stopped for lunch at a cafe on the way home. Sophie colored on the paper tablecloth while Victoria and Evan shared a basket of fries. the conversation easy in a way it hadn't been before. They talked about the exhibits, about Sophie's growing obsession with velociraptors, about whether the museum gift shop dinosaur was worth $20. It's just plastic, Victoria said. It's a memory, Evan countered. You're a softie. I'm a father, Victoria smiled into her coffee cup. Same thing. They bought the dinosaur. Sophie named it Blue and talked to it the entire car ride home. When they got back to the penthouse, she was yawning, the excitement of the day catching up with her. Nap time, Evan said. I'm not tired. You just yawned 3 times. That was Blue yawning. Victoria laughed. How about this? You rest for an hour, then we'll watch a movie together. Deal? Deal. Sophie hugged Victoria suddenly, fiercely. Thank you for today. It was the best day. Something crossed Victoria's face. Surprise, maybe. Or something deeper. She hugged Sophie back carefully. You're welcome, sweetheart. After Sophie was settled in her room, Evan found Victoria standing at the living room windows, looking out at the city. The afternoon sun backlit her, making her seem smaller, more solitary. Thank you, he said, for today. You didn't have to do all that. Yes, I did. We're married. This is what married people do. They spend time with their stepchildren. They go to museums. They pretend to enjoy dinosaur facts. You weren't pretending. She glanced at him. No, I wasn't. Sophie adores you. She's an easy kid to adore. Victoria, I should work. She moved toward the office. I have reports to review before tomorrow's meeting. It was a dismissal, a retreat. Evan let her go, but the moment stayed with him, the way she'd hugged Sophie, the look on her face, like she'd been given something precious and didn't quite know what to do with it. The next few days settled into a rhythm. Evan went to work, Victoria went to work, and they maintained the fiction both in public and at home. Morning coffee together, evening dinners, small touches in passing, a hand on a shoulder, fingers brushing as they reached for the same thing. They were building a catalog of casual intimacy, the kind that made people believe. But Marcus was watching. Evan felt it constantly. At the office, people mentioned seeing him at events, asked questions about the wedding. A few made comments that felt pointed, like they'd been fed lines by someone else. On Wednesday, Jennifer called an emergency meeting at the penthouse. We have a problem, she said, spreading tabloid printouts across the dining table. The headline screamed, Hasty marriage raises questions. Hale Industries CEO's suspicious romance. Did Victoria Hale marry for control? Marcus is feeding stories to the press, Victoria said flatly, planting doubt. It's worse than that. Jennifer pulled up something on her tablet. He's hired a private investigator. We don't have confirmation yet, but my sources say someone's been asking questions about both of you, interviewing former colleagues, neighbors from your old apartment building. Evan's stomach dropped. What are they finding? Nothing concrete, but they're looking. And if they dig deep enough, they might find discrepancies, timeline issues, the fact that nobody remembers you two together before the wedding. Because we weren't together before the wedding, Victoria said. Because this is... She stopped herself, glancing at Sophie's closed bedroom door. We need to be more visible, Jennifer said. More public, more convincing. The family weekend at your mother's estate is in 4 days. That needs to be perfect. Absolutely flawless. Because Marcus will be there watching every interaction. Well, what's a family weekend? Evan asked. Victoria sighed. My mother hosts them quarterly. The whole family gathers at the estate for 3 days. Dinners, activities, quality time. It's hell, Jennifer supplied. It's hell, but it's also necessary. You'll be there, together, sharing a room because that's what married couples do. Sharing a room, Evan repeated. One bed, Jennifer said, because again, that's what married couples do. And Marcus will absolutely check. He'll find a way to verify you're actually sleeping together. The room fell silent. We can handle that, Victoria said, not looking at Evan. We're adults. We can share a bed for 3 nights. Platonically, Evan added. Obviously. Jennifer looked between them. You two need to sell this, not just at dinner or in public spaces, all the time, because if Marcus catches even a hint that this marriage isn't real, he'll use it. The estate has a lot of staff, housekeepers, groundskeepers, kitchen workers. Any of them could be sources. You need to act like newlyweds who can't keep their hands off each other. After Jennifer left, Evan and Victoria sat in uncomfortable silence. I can sleep on the floor, Evan offered. Don't be ridiculous. It's a California king. There's plenty of space for both of us to sleep without even touching. Right. Plenty of space. Evan. She finally looked at him. This is going to be intense. My family, they're not like your museum trips with Sophie. They're critical, judgmental. They'll pick apart everything we do and say, and Marcus will be worse. He'll push. He'll create situations designed to make us uncomfortable. Then we don't let him see us uncomfortable. Easier said than done. We've handled everything else so far. This is different. This is 3 days of constant performance. No breaks, no privacy, just us pretending to be something we're not while my brother looks for proof that we're lying. Evan moved closer, sat next to her on the couch, close enough that their knees touched. We can do this. We've practiced. We know each other's stories. We can be convincing. Can we? Her voice was quiet, uncertain in a way he'd never heard before. Because sometimes I'm not sure what's pretend anymore and what's... She stopped, stood abruptly. I should check on Sophie. Make sure she's still napping. She left before Evan could respond, before he could ask her to finish that sentence, before he could admit that he wasn't sure either. The days before the estate weekend passed too quickly. Victoria was distant, working late, avoiding the moments of casual contact they'd built up. Sophie noticed, asking Evan why Victoria seemed sad. She's just stressed about work, he said. Maybe we should do something nice for her, to make her feel better. So they did. Sophie drew a picture, Victoria and Evan and Sophie holding hands in front of a house with a purple door, and they left it on Victoria's desk with a note. You're the best stepmom ever. Love, Sophie. Victoria found it that evening. Evan heard her in the office, heard the quiet intake of breath. When she emerged, her eyes were red. Are you okay? He asked. Fine. Just allergies. She clutched the picture. This is very sweet. Tell Sophie I love it. Tell her yourself. So she did. She knocked on Sophia's door, thanked her for the picture, and Sophie hugged her again with that fierce, trusting love that children give so freely. Victoria held on longer than usual. That night, after Sophie was asleep, Victoria appeared at Evan's door. Can we talk? They sat in his room, the space feeling smaller with both of them in it. I'm scared, Victoria admitted, of this weekend, of what Marcus might find, of what happens if this all falls apart. It won't. You don't know that. No, but I know we're good at this, better than either of us expected, and I know that whatever Marcus throws at us, we'll handle it, together. She looked at him, something vulnerable in her expression. Why are you so calm? Because panicking won't help, and because... He hesitated. Because I believe in us, in what we're doing. The lie, you mean? Is it still a lie? When we have coffee every morning and talk about our days, when you read to Sophie at night, when you hold my hand and it doesn't feel forced anymore? Victoria's breath caught. Evan, I'm not saying anything's changed. I know what this is, a business arrangement, but somewhere along the way we became friends, partners, and that's real. Even if the marriage isn't. She was quiet for a long moment. You're right. We are friends. And that makes this harder. Why? Because when this ends, it hasn't ended yet. We still have 2.5 weeks. Let's focus on that. She nodded, stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. The picture Sophie drew. She put us in front of a house with a purple door. She loves purple. I know, but she drew a family, the 3 of us, together. And when this is over, when we divorce, she's going to lose that image. That dream. We'll handle it carefully, like we discussed. Will that be enough? Will it not hurt her? Evan had no answer, because he didn't know. He'd been so focused on the money, on the security, on getting through 30 days, that he hadn't let himself think about the aftermath, about explaining to Sophie that Victoria wasn't going to be part of their lives anymore. We'll make it as gentle as possible, he said finally. Victoria nodded, but she didn't look convinced. She left without another word. Friday arrived with gray skies and the promise of rain. They packed bags, loaded them into Victoria's car, and drove north out of the city. Sophie was excited about the big house, the grounds, the promise of spending more time with Grandma Margot. The estate appeared through the trees like something from a period film, stone and ivy and perfectly manicured lawns, a fountain in the circular drive, actual peacocks wandering the grounds. Wow, Sophie breathed. Indeed, Evan agreed. Margot met them at the door, embracing Victoria and then Sophie. She shook Evan's hand, her eyes assessing. Welcome. Your room is ready. Second floor, east wing. Marcus arrived an hour ago. He's in the library. Of course he is, Victoria muttered. Their room was enormous. 4-poster bed, fireplace, windows overlooking the gardens, a bathroom bigger than Evan's old living room, and one bed. Just like Jennifer had warned. I can take the couch, Evan said, eyeing the small sofa near the fireplace. You're 6 feet tall. You'd be miserable. We'll share the bed. It's fine. Sophie bounced in. This room is huge. Can I explore? Stay on this floor, Victoria said, and stay out of Uncle Marcus's way. After Sophie ran off to investigate, Evan unpacked while Victoria stood at the window, her shoulders tense. What's the schedule? He asked. Cocktails at 6. Dinner at 7. Tomorrow there's tennis and lunch and more forced family bonding. Sunday we escape after breakfast. She turned to face him. Remember, we're newlyweds. We're in love. We can't keep our hands off each other. Got it. I mean it, Evan. Touching, proximity, affection, all of it. I understand. She crossed to him, took his hand, pulled him close. Like this. This is our baseline, comfortable, natural. Standing this close, Evan could see the flecks of green in her gray eyes, could smell her perfume, could feel the warmth of her body. His pulse kicked up. Comfortable, he repeated. Yes. But her voice was slightly unsteady. A knock on the door broke the moment. They stepped apart as Margot entered. Settling in? Yes, thank you, Victoria said. Margot's eyes went to the bed, then back to them. Assessing, always assessing. Good. Cocktails in the south parlor in an hour. Don't be late. Cocktails were exactly as uncomfortable as Evan had feared. Marcus was there, holding court, telling some story about a business deal that made him look clever and ruthless. When Victoria and Evan entered, he stopped mid-sentence. The newlyweds. How cozy you look. Victoria's hand found Evan's, squeezed hard. Marcus. I was just telling Mother about an interesting conversation I had this week. With a private investigator, very thorough man. Asked all sorts of questions about our family, about Victoria's romantic history, about... His eyes slid to Evan. Unexpected marriages. How invasive, Margot said coolly. I hope you're not harassing your sister. Not harassment, due diligence. Father's will requires certain conditions be met. I'm simply ensuring they're met legitimately. The will requires I be married, Victoria said. I am. For 30 days, consecutively. We're only at, what, day 12? 18 more to go. A lot can happen in 18 days. Evan felt Victoria's hand trembling in his. He pulled her closer, wrapped his arm around her waist. Nothing's going to happen, except Victoria and I enjoying our marriage, and you wasting money on investigators who won't find anything. Marcus smiled. We'll see. Dinner was a careful dance. 8 people at a table that could seat 20. Margot at the head, Victoria and Evan on one side, Marcus and his date, some model whose name Evan immediately forgot, on the other. 2 of Margot's friends, older society women who watched everything with bright, curious eyes. The conversation was polite, deadly polite. Questions about the wedding, about how Evan was adjusting to his new life, about Sophie and her school and her interests. Victoria fielded most of it, her hand finding Evan's knee under the table, an anchor point. It's refreshing, one of Margot's friends said. To see Victoria so settled, we'd begun to think she'd married her work. I did, Victoria said, until I met Evan and realized there were more important things. Like what? Marcus asked. Like family, like building a life with someone, like... She turned to look at Evan, and the expression on her face was so tender it took his breath away. Like finding someone who sees you, really sees you, not your title or your money or what you can do for them, just you. It was a performance. It had to be, but it felt real. How touching, Marcus said. Almost scripted. Marcus, Margot warned. I'm simply observing. This whole thing is very convenient, very timely. Right when Victoria needs to be married to keep the company. Right when I fell in love, Victoria corrected. The timing is coincidental. Is it? Evan had had enough. What exactly are you accusing us of? I'm not accusing. I'm questioning. There's a difference. No, there isn't. You're implying our marriage is fake, that we're lying, and I'm telling you right now, you're wrong. Am I? Prove it. How? What proof would satisfy you? A video of the wedding? Photos of us together? Testimony from Sophie about how Victoria reads to her every night and knows her favorite color and makes her pancakes shaped like dinosaurs? Evan's voice rose. Or is no amount of proof enough because you've already decided we're lying? The table had gone silent. Marcus stared at him, eyes narrowed. Careful, Mr. Carter. You're getting emotional. I'm defending my wife. Of course I'm emotional. Margot cleared her throat. That's enough, both of you. This is a family dinner, not a courtroom. Marcus, your skepticism is noted and dismissed. Victoria is married. The will's requirements are being met. Let it go. Marcus sat back, but his eyes remained on Evan, calculating, plotting. After dinner, they escaped to their room. Victoria paced, agitated, while Evan watched from the bed. He's not going to stop, she said. He's going to push and push until something breaks. Then we don't break. You don't understand. Tomorrow there's tennis. He'll find a way to separate us, to question us individually, to look for inconsistencies. Then our stories stay consistent. We've practiced this. She stopped pacing, turned to face him. Have you ever been in love, Evan? Real love? The question caught him off guard. My ex-wife, in the beginning. What was it like? Intense, consuming, like I couldn't imagine my life without her. He paused. Why? Because that's what we need to project. Not just compatibility, not just affection, but the kind of love that's undeniable, the kind that makes people believe we do anything for each other. I think we already project that. Do we? She crossed to the bed, sat next to him, close. Or are we just going through the motions, following the script? Victoria, what are you asking? She looked at him, her eyes searching his face. I'm asking if you think we're convincing, if you think people believe we're in love. I think your mother believes it. I think most people at that gala believed it. The only person who doesn't believe it is Marcus, and he doesn't want to believe it. And you? Do you believe it? The question hung between them, dangerous, loaded. I believe, Evan said carefully, that we've built something real here. Maybe not romantic love, but trust, partnership, friendship. And that's more than a lot of married couples have. She nodded slowly. You're right. We have built something. She stood, moved to the bathroom. I'm going to get ready for bed. There are extra blankets in the closet if you get cold. The bathroom door closed. Evan sat there, trying to process the conversation, trying to understand what she'd really been asking. When she emerged 20 minutes later, she wore silk pajamas, her face scrubbed clean. She looked younger, more vulnerable. They both climbed into bed, staying carefully on their respective sides. The distance between them felt like miles. Good night, Victoria said. Good night. Evan lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe. The bed was huge. There was no reason they should accidentally touch. No reason he should be this aware of her presence. But he was. Around midnight, he heard it. A soft sound, almost like crying. Victoria? I'm fine. Go to sleep. But she wasn't fine. He could hear the catch in her breath, the struggle to stay quiet. What's wrong? Nothing. Her voice broke. I just hate this. I hate lying to my mother. I hate that Marcus is right, even if he can't prove it. I hate that Sophie drew us as a family, and in 3 weeks that family won't exist. I hate all of it. Evan rolled onto his side, facing her shadow in the darkness. Come here. What? Just come here. She shifted closer. He pulled her against his chest, wrapping his arms around her. She was stiff at first, resistant, then slowly relaxed, her head tucked under his chin, her hand resting against his heart. This is not professional, she whispered. No, but it's human. And right now you need someone to hold you while you fall apart. I can be that someone. She did fall apart, quietly, her tears soaking his shirt, her body shaking with suppressed sobs. Evan held her through it, stroking her hair, murmuring reassurances that probably didn't help but were all he had to offer. Eventually the tears stopped. Her breathing evened out. She didn't pull away. "Thank you," she said into the darkness. "Anytime." "Evan?" "Yeah?" "If things were different, if we'd met some other way, do you think this could have been real?" He thought about it, about the woman in his arms, about the CEO who made pancakes with his daughter, about the way she laughed at his terrible jokes, and how she looked at him sometimes like he was worth more than he believed. "Yeah," he said. "I think it could have." She didn't respond, but her hand curled into his shirt, holding on. They fell asleep like that, tangled together. No distance, no careful space. And when Evan woke in the early morning light, she was still there, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist, their legs intertwined. She stirred, blinked awake, realized their position. Neither of them moved. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning." "We should—" "Yeah." But they didn't. They lay there for another minute, then two. Like if they didn't acknowledge it, didn't move, the moment could last forever. Finally, Victoria pulled away, sat up, pushed her hair back. We were just—" "Comfort," Evan said. "You were upset. I was being a friend." "Right. A friend. Nothing more." "Of course not." But when their eyes met, they both knew it was a lie. The day passed in a blur of forced activities. Tennis, which Marcus won through sheer competitive cruelty. Lunch on the terrace. A walk through the gardens where Marcus managed to get Evan alone. "She's good at this," Marcus said. "Playing the loving wife. But it's an act. You know that, right?" "I know she loves me." "Love?" Marcus laughed. "My sister doesn't love anyone. She uses people. When she's done with you, you'll be discarded like everyone else. You don't know her as well as you think. I know her better than you ever will. We grew up together. I've watched her manipulate people her entire life. You're just the latest mark. If you really believe that, why are you trying so hard to convince me?" Marcus's smile faded. "Because when this falls apart, and it will, I want you to know I warned you. I want you to remember that I tried to save you from her." That night, back in their room, Victoria asked what Marcus had said. "Nothing important, just more of the same." "Did he get to you?" "No." "Evan." She took his hand. "Be honest. He said you'll discard me when this is over, that I'm being used. And you said that he doesn't know you." Something shifted in her expression. "But he's right, isn't he? That's exactly what's going to happen. She calculated quickly. 16 days. We get divorced. You take Sophie and move out. I go back to my life. We discard this whole charade." That was the deal. "Right, the deal." She pulled her hand away. "I should work. I brought my laptop." She spent the rest of the evening at the small desk in the corner, typing furiously, pointedly, not looking at him. Evan played games on his phone, pretending the tension in the room wasn't suffocating. That night, they went to bed on their respective sides. No touching, no comfort, just careful, deliberate distance. But sometime in the night, Evan woke to find her curled against him again, like she'd unconsciously sought him out, her hand in his, her breathing soft and steady. He should wake her, should establish boundaries. Instead, he pulled her closer and went back to sleep. Sunday breakfast was mercifully short. They made their excuses, packed, and escaped back to the city. Sophie chattered the whole drive about the peacocks and the big house and how nice Grandma Margot was. Back at the penthouse, reality settled over them. 16 days left, 16 days of pretending. Then it would all be over. Victoria disappeared into her office. Evan helped Sophie unpack, made dinner, put her to bed. Around 9, he knocked on Victoria's office door. "Come in." She looked exhausted, papers everywhere, computer screen glowing. "You should take a break," he said. "I'm fine." Victoria, please don't." She didn't look up. "Don't be kind to me right now. Don't ask how I'm feeling. Don't—" Her voice cracked. "Don't make this harder than it already is." "What are you talking about?" She finally looked at him, and her eyes were red. "You, the way you held me Friday night, the way you defended me to Marcus, the way you look at me sometimes like—" She stopped, shook her head. We have 16 days left. Let's just get through them, professionally, like we agreed. Is that what you want? It's what's smart. What's safe. That's not what I asked. She stood, moved to the window, put distance between them. Go to bed, Evan, please. He wanted to push, wanted to make her finish that sentence, make her admit whatever was happening between them. But he didn't. He left, went to his room, lay in bed staring at the ceiling. 16 days. And he had no idea how they were going to survive them. Because somewhere between the rehearsed stories and the shared dinners and the nights held in each other's arms, the lie had become something else. Something neither of them knew how to name. Something that was going to break both their hearts when the 30 days were up. The next week crawled by in a fog of careful distance and deliberate avoidance. Victoria left for work before Evan woke up. She came home late, after Sophie was already asleep. When they did cross paths, their conversations were polite, professional, empty. Good morning. Morning. Coffee's made. Thanks. I have an early meeting. Of course. Sophie noticed. She asked Evan why Victoria didn't eat breakfast with them anymore, why she didn't help with homework, why she seemed sad all the time. She's just busy with work, sweetheart. Is she mad at us? No, never. She has a lot on her mind. But Sophie wasn't convinced, and neither was Evan. Something had broken at the estate, some fragile balance they'd managed to maintain. Now they were strangers again, living in the same space, playing roles that no longer fit. On Thursday, Jennifer called. We have a problem, a big one. She arrived within the hour, her face grim. Victoria emerged from her office, and they gathered around the dining table like a war council. Marcus found something, Jennifer said without preamble. She pulled out her tablet, showed them a document. Your old landlord, Mr. Chen. The investigator tracked him down, asked about your living situation before the marriage. Evan's stomach dropped. What did he say? That you were 4 months behind on rent. That Victoria's office called 2 weeks before the wedding and paid everything off, in full, plus 3 months advance. Victoria's face went pale. We can explain that. Married couples help each other financially. Before the marriage? Jennifer interrupted. Before you were even engaged? It looks exactly like what it is. A payment. Compensation for services rendered. The room fell silent. How bad is this? Evan asked. Bad. Marcus is preparing to present this to the trust's board. He'll argue that the marriage was prearranged, that you were paid to marry Victoria, that the whole thing is a fraud designed to circumvent the will. Can he prove that? Victoria asked. He doesn't need to prove it. He just needs to create enough reasonable doubt. If the board questions the legitimacy of the marriage, they can delay the transfer of control. They can require additional verification. Jennifer stopped. They can give Marcus exactly what he wants, time and leverage. When is he presenting? Evan asked. Monday, 3 days from now. We need a strategy. Victoria stood, paced to the window. We admit it was prearranged. We say Evan was in financial trouble. I offered to help, and during that process, we fell in love. The payment was separate from the marriage. No one will believe that, Jennifer said bluntly. The timeline is too convenient, the amount too specific. It looks like a transaction because it was a transaction. Then what do we do? Victoria's voice was sharp with desperation. Lie? Hope they don't dig deeper? Pray Marcus doesn't have more evidence? We could provide evidence of the relationship before the marriage, Jennifer suggested. Photos, texts, something showing you were together before the rent was paid. We don't have that, Evan said, because we weren't together. Then we create it. That's fraud. This whole thing is fraud. Jennifer's professional mask slipped. I'm sorry, but you both knew what you were getting into. You built this house of cards. Now it's falling down, and the only question is whether you want to salvage something or let Marcus win. Victoria and Evan looked at each other, really looked at each other for the first time in days. I won't ask you to lie for me, Victoria said quietly. Not like that. Not creating false evidence. That's too far. Then what's the alternative? We tell the truth. Jennifer laughed, bitter and sharp. The truth will destroy you. The board will revoke your control. Marcus will take over. You'll lose everything. Maybe. But at least I'll lose it honestly. Victoria turned to Evan. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I dragged you into this. I thought I could control it. I thought we could pull it off. But I was wrong, and now you're caught in the crossfire. Victoria, I'll make sure you get paid. Every penny I promised. The debts will be cleared. Sophie's trust fund will be established. You held up your end of the deal. It's not your fault my brother is... Stop. Evan stood, cross to her. Just stop. You're not doing this alone. There's no other way. Yes, there is. We go to that meeting together. We face the board together. And we tell them the truth. Not the whole truth, but enough. We tell them the marriage started as an arrangement, yes, but that it became real. Victoria stared at him. Evan, that's still a lie. Is it? The question hung between them. Jennifer's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it, then stood. I'll give you two some privacy, but I need an answer by tomorrow. What are we telling the board? She left. Victoria and Evan stood in the living room, the city glittering beyond the windows, the silence heavy with everything unsaid. What are you saying? Victoria asked. I'm saying that somewhere in the last 3 weeks, this stopped being just an arrangement for me. I'm saying that when I hold your hand, I'm not pretending anymore. When Sophie talks about you like you're part of our family, she's right. You are. And when I wake up with you in my arms, it feels... He stopped, gathered courage. It feels like home. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Please don't say things like that. Why not? Because it's inconvenient, because it wasn't part of the plan, because in 12 days this is supposed to end and we're supposed to walk away like none of it mattered. Yes, exactly that. Her voice broke. Because I can't let myself believe this is real. I can't let myself hope that maybe you actually... She pressed her hands to her face. I'm not good at this. At feelings, at letting people in. I built walls for a reason. I know, I've seen them. I've watched you hide behind them every time things get too real, too close. But Victoria... He gently pulled her hands away from her face. Those walls are keeping you safe, but they're also keeping you alone. Maybe I'm meant to be alone. No, you're meant to be loved. You're meant to laugh over dinosaur-shaped pancakes and read bedtime stories and wake up next to someone who sees all of you, the brilliant CEO and the woman who cries over children's drawings, and loves both. Evan, stop. I love you. The words fell into the space between them like stones into still water. Victoria froze. You don't mean that. I do. I love you, not your money or your company or what you can do for Sophie. You. The woman who tried to teach herself to make pancakes from a box mix. The woman who crawled through a museum cave system in expensive jeans. The woman who holds me at night when she thinks I'm asleep. This is the arrangement talking. The proximity. We've been living together, playing house. This is me talking. Evan Carter, single dad from Indiana. Guy who drives a car held together with hope and used to eat ramen 3 nights a week. I'm telling you that I fell in love with you, and I don't know when it happened, but I know it's real. Victoria was crying now, tears streaming down her face. You can't love me. I'm cold and demanding, and I work 18-hour days, and I don't know how to be what you need. You're already what I need. You're what Sophie needs. You think you're not good with her? She asks for you every night. She draws pictures of us as a family. She told me yesterday that she hopes we never stop being married. In 12 days, we're supposed to stop. Then we changed the plan. We can't. Why not? Why can't we make this real, actually real? Not for the board or the will or Marcus, for us. Victoria shook her head, backing away. Because when you realize what you've signed up for, when the novelty wears off and you remember that I'm difficult and stubborn and married to my work, you'll leave. Everyone leaves, and I can't... Her voice cracked. I can't survive you leaving. I'm not everyone, and I'm not leaving. You don't know that. Yes, I do, because I've seen who you are when you let your guard down. I've seen you be patient and kind and vulnerable. I've seen you try so hard to make Sophie happy, even though children terrify you. I've seen the real you, Victoria, and that's who I love. She sobbed, and Evan crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. She fought for a moment, then collapsed against him, crying into his chest the way she had at the estate. But this time it felt different, more raw, more real. I'm so scared, she whispered. I know. I don't know how to do this, how to be someone's... Someone's person. Neither do I. We'll figure it out together. What about the board? Marcus? He'll still present the evidence. Then we tell them the truth. That yes, the marriage started as an arrangement, but that we actually fell in love, and that changes everything. She pulled back to look at him, her face blotchy and tear-streaked and beautiful. You really love me? Really? Even though I'm a mess? Especially because you're a mess. It means you're human. She laughed, watery and broken. I love you too. I think I have for weeks, but I was too terrified to admit it. Too convinced it couldn't be real. It's real. Yeah. She touched his face, wonder in her eyes. It is. He kissed her, finally, properly. Not the chaste press of lips at City Hall, but a real kiss, deep and desperate and full of everything they'd been holding back. She kissed him back like she was drowning, and he was air, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Evan rested his forehead against hers. So, he said, what do we tell the board? The truth, that this started as business and became something neither of us expected. That I love you and you love me, and that's not fraud, that's just life. Will they believe us? I don't know, but at least we'll be fighting together. They spent the rest of the evening preparing. Jennifer returned and they walked her through the new strategy. She was skeptical but cautiously optimistic. If you two can sell this, actually sell that you're in love, the board might side with you, but Marcus will push back hard. He'll argue you're lying to save the company. Then we prove we're not, Victoria said. Evan, the next few days, we need to be visible, together, publicly. Show the world this is real. So they did. Friday they had lunch at a busy downtown restaurant, sitting close, talking quietly, looking for all the world like a couple in love. Saturday they took Sophie to the park, and paparazzi caught photos of them. Evan pushing Sophie on the swings while Victoria watched, laughing. Sunday they attended a charity brunch, and Victoria introduced Evan as her husband with such warmth and pride that people noticed. The photos hit social media. Articles appeared questioning the earlier skepticism. Victoria Hale and mystery husband look genuinely happy, one headline read. Maybe it's real after all, suggested another. But Marcus wasn't convinced. Sunday night, he called Victoria. Cute photos, he said. Very strategic, but I know what you're doing. And tomorrow, the board will too. Let them see the evidence, Victoria said calmly. All of it. And then let them decide. You're going to lose everything. Maybe. Or maybe I've already won because I have something you'll never understand. Someone who loves me for me, not what I can give them. Marcus laughed. How touching. See you tomorrow, sister. That night, Evan and Victoria lay in bed together. Not on separate sides. Together. Her head on his chest, his arms around her, their legs tangled. Whatever happens tomorrow, Victoria said, I want you to know these 3 weeks have been the best of my life. Even with all the lying and stress and Marcus? Even with all of that. Because I found you. And Sophie. And the possibility of something I didn't think I could have. A family. Yeah, a family. She tilted her head to look at him. If we lose tomorrow, if the board sides with Marcus, what happens to us? We stay together, we make it work. I get a new job. We find a smaller place, we build a life. You'd do that? Give up the money? The security? The money was never the point. Not really. It was always about giving Sophie a better life. And she has that now, not because of a trust fund, but because she has you. We both do. Victoria kissed him, slow and sweet. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. You deserve everything. They made love that night, gentle and careful and full of tenderness, not performing for anyone, not pretending. Just two people who'd found each other against all odds, holding on to something precious and fragile and real. Monday morning arrived too quickly. They dressed in armor, Victoria in a power suit that screamed confidence. Evan, in the best suit he owned, borrowed tie clip from Victoria's collection. Sophie had already left for school, unaware of the battle about to unfold. The board meeting was scheduled for 10. Jennifer met them in the lobby of Hale Industries, her expression grim. Marcus is already upstairs. He has a presentation prepared, documents, evidence. He's going for the kill. Then let him, Victoria said, taking Evan's hand. We're ready. The boardroom was intimidating. Long table, leather chairs, walls of windows overlooking the city. 7 board members sat waiting. Margot was there too, in the corner, her face unreadable. And Marcus, standing at the head of the table, a tablet in hand, looking like a man about to win a war. Thank you all for coming, he began. I know this is irregular, but I have evidence that requires immediate board attention. Evidence that suggests my sister's marriage is a fraud designed to circumvent our father's will. He pulled up the first document, Mr. Chen's statement about the rent payments, then bank records showing the payment originated from Hale Industries' discretionary fund, then a timeline showing the payment occurred 2 weeks before the marriage. The pattern is clear, Marcus said. Victoria found someone desperate enough to agree to a sham marriage. She paid off his debts. They staged a wedding, all to meet the 30-day requirement and keep control of the company. The board members murmured. Margot's expression remained neutral. Victoria's hand tightened on Evan's. Do you have a response to these allegations? The board chairman asked. Victoria stood. Yes. Some of what my brother presented is factually accurate. Evan was in financial trouble. I did arrange for his debts to be paid. And yes, the timing appears suspicious, but there is no but, Marcus interrupted. It's fraud, plain and simple. Let her finish, Margot said quietly. The room fell silent. Victoria took a breath. The marriage did begin as an arrangement. I needed a husband to meet the will's requirements. Evan needed financial help. We agreed to a 30-day marriage of convenience. The room erupted, board members talking over each other, Marcus smiling like he'd already won. However, Victoria said loudly, what started as an arrangement became something neither of us planned for. We fell in love. Convenient timing, Marcus said. It wasn't convenient. It was terrifying. I didn't want to fall in love. I didn't want to need someone or depend on anyone or let someone see the parts of me I keep hidden. But Evan, her voice softened. Evan saw me anyway. Not the CEO, not the heiress, me. And he didn't run. He stayed. He held me when I cried. He defended me to my brother. He loves my work and my ambition and all the things most men find threatening. And I love him. Actually love him. Not because I'm supposed to or because it serves some purpose, but because he's kind and steady and makes me want to be better. She looked at Evan, tears in her eyes. I love him. And yes, this marriage started as business, but it's real now, more real than anything I've ever known. Evan stood, faced the board. She's telling the truth. I agreed to this arrangement because I was desperate, because my daughter deserved better than what I could give her. But somewhere between the rehearsed stories and the shared dinners and waking up next to this incredible woman, I fell in love. Completely. Terrifyingly. Irreversibly. And I don't care if you believe me, but you should believe her. Because Victoria Hale doesn't lie about her feelings. She barely admits she has feelings. So if she's standing here telling you she loves me, it's because it's true. The room was silent. This is absurd, Marcus said. They're performing, saying what you want to hear. Don't be fooled. I believe them, Margot said. All eyes turned to her. She stood, moved to the center of the room. I've watched my daughter her entire life. I've seen her build walls. I've seen her push people away. I've watched her choose work over relationships over and over again. And in the last 3 weeks, I've watched her change. I've seen her smile more, laugh more. I've watched her with Evan's daughter, and I've seen a tenderness I didn't know she possessed. Margot looked at Marcus. You think this is an act? I know my daughter. She doesn't know how to act in love, but she's learning, and that's real. Mother, you can't be serious. I'm deadly serious. Victoria married for the wrong reasons initially, yes, but she fell in love for the right ones, and that matters. Margot turned to the board. Our father's will required Victoria to be married for 30 days. It didn't specify that the marriage had to begin with love. Only that it exists, and it does exist, legally, emotionally, in every way that matters. The board chairman cleared his throat. Mrs. Hale makes a valid point. The will's language doesn't address the origins of the marriage, only its existence and duration. But the spirit of the requirement, Marcus tried, the spirit was to encourage stability and maturity, and from what I've observed, this marriage has provided both. The chairman looked at Victoria and Evan. I move that we accept the marriage as legitimate and proceed with transferring control to Victoria as outlined in the will. All in favor? 6 hands went up. Only one board member abstained, looking uncertain. Motion passes, the chairman said. Ms. Hale retains control of Hale Industries. This matter is closed. Marcus's face went red. You're making a mistake. They're lying. Enough, Margot said coldly. You've lost, Marcus. Accept it with grace or leave with shame. Your choice. He chose to leave, slammed out of the boardroom without another word. The board members filed out, offering congratulations to Victoria. Margot hugged her daughter, whispered something in her ear that made Victoria cry. When the room cleared, it was just Evan and Victoria and Jennifer, who looked like she'd witnessed a miracle. You did it, Jennifer said. You actually did it. We did it, Victoria corrected, looking at Evan. Together. What happens now? Evan asked. Now, Victoria smiled. Now we have 9 days left of the original 30, and then we decide what comes next. I already know what comes next, Evan said, pulling her close. We stay married. Actually married. For real. For real, Victoria agreed. They kissed there in the boardroom, and Jennifer made a gagging sound but smiled anyway. When they broke apart, Victoria was laughing, actually laughing, the sound bright and free. I can't believe we pulled that off. I can, Evan said, because we weren't lying, not about the important part. That evening, they told Sophie everything. Well, an age-appropriate version of everything. That the marriage had started quickly because grown-ups sometimes made fast decisions, but that they'd fallen in love and wanted to stay together for real. So you're not going to get divorced? Sophie asked, clutching Blue the dinosaur. No, sweetheart. We're going to stay married, if that's okay with you. Sophie launched herself at both of them, hugging them with all the fierce love a 6-year-old possessed. It's okay. It's more than okay. We're a real family. We're a real family, Victoria agreed, and her voice only shook a little. That night, after Sophie was asleep, Evan found Victoria on the couch, staring at nothing. Hey, you okay? I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for this to fall apart, for you to realize what you've gotten yourself into. Not going to happen. How can you be sure? Because I've already seen the worst of you. The control issues, the workaholic tendencies, the way you panic and push people away. And I'm still here, still in love with you, still choosing you. She pulled him down next to her, curled into his side. I don't know how to be a wife. A real wife. Good thing I don't know how to be a real husband. We'll figure it out together. And Sophie, I don't know how to be a mother. You're already doing it. You read to her. You make her laugh. You care about her happiness. That's all being a mother is. It can't be that simple. It is. Love is simple. We're the ones who complicate it. Victoria was quiet for a long moment, then, Evan? Yeah? Thank you for fighting for this, for fighting for us. Always. They sat there in the quiet penthouse, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows, holding each other. The 30 days weren't up yet. There were still 9 days left of the original arrangement, but it didn't matter, because they'd already decided. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't fake. This was real and messy and complicated and theirs, and they were keeping it. The relief lasted exactly 36 hours. Tuesday evening, Evan came home from work to find Victoria pacing the living room, her phone pressed to her ear, her face tight with barely controlled rage. I don't care what his lawyers say. He can't. She stopped, listened. Fine. Yes. Tomorrow at 9. I'll be there. She hung up, threw her phone onto the couch. What's wrong? Evan asked. Marcus? He's not done. He filed an injunction claiming the board meeting was conducted under false pretenses. He's arguing that our admission of the arranged marriage invalidates the entire thing. He wants a full investigation, depositions, the works. Can he do that? His lawyers think so. They're arguing that any marriage that began as fraud remains fraudulent regardless of what happens after. That the will's spirit was to encourage genuine relationships, not business arrangements that conveniently develop feelings. Evan set down his briefcase. So, what does that mean? It means we're going to court. It means months of legal battles. It means Marcus gets to drag this out, create uncertainty, potentially destabilize the company in the process. She sank onto the couch, head in her hands. I thought we won. I thought telling the truth would be enough. It was enough for the board. But not for Marcus. He'll never stop. Never. Her voice cracked. Maybe I should just give him the company. Let him have it. At least then this would be over. You don't mean that. Don't I? I'm so tired, Evan. Tired of fighting. Tired of defending myself. Tired of watching everything I say and do get twisted into evidence against me. Sophie appeared in the doorway, still in her school uniform, backpack trailing from one hand. Why are you sad? She asked Victoria. Victoria wiped her eyes quickly. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a hard day at work. Daddy says when you have a hard day, you should have ice cream and watch something funny. Despite everything, Victoria smiled. Does he? Yep, it's science. Sophie said it so seriously that both adults had to laugh. Well, if it's science, Victoria said, standing and holding out her hand. Come on, let's go get ice cream. They went to the corner ice cream shop, the three of them, and for an hour they pretended everything was normal. Sophie got chocolate with sprinkles, Victoria got vanilla bean, Evan got coffee. They sat at a tiny table by the window and Sophie told them about her day, about the spelling test she aced, about the boy who pulled her hair at recess, about the picture she was drawing for art class. It's our family, Sophie explained. You and Daddy and me and Blue. Blue the dinosaur made it into the family portrait? Victoria asked, amused. Obviously. He's important. Walking home, Sophie held both their hands, swinging between them, chattering about wanting a dog someday. Evan watched Victoria listen with genuine interest, asking questions about what kind of dog, what they would name it, where it would sleep. This woman who'd been crying in their living room an hour ago was now seriously discussing the merits of golden retrievers versus labradoodles with a 6-year-old. After Sophie was in bed, Victoria found Evan in their bedroom, because it was their bedroom now, not his room and her room, but theirs. She stood in the doorway looking uncertain. Can we talk? Always. She crossed to the bed, sat next to him. I've been thinking about what Sophie said, about family, and I realized this is the first time in my life I've actually had one. A real family. Not people connected by blood and obligation, but people who choose each other. Victoria, let me finish, please. She took his hand. Growing up, my family was transactional. My father loved me, but he loved his company more. My mother loved me, but from a distance. Marcus and I were competitors, not siblings. Everything was about achievement and success and maintaining appearances. There was no, she struggled for the word, no warmth, no safety, no one I could just be myself with. And now? Now I have you and Sophie, and when I'm with you, I don't have to perform. I don't have to be the CEO or the heiress or the perfect daughter. I can just be Victoria. Messy, uncertain, still figuring it out Victoria. And you love me anyway. Evan pulled her close. I love you especially because of all that. I don't want to lose this. I don't want Marcus's vendetta to destroy what we've built. Then we fight. Together. However long it takes. It could take months. Years even. I'm not going anywhere. She pulled back to look at him. You say that now. But what happens when this drags on? When every detail of our lives gets examined in court? When reporters camp outside and Sophie can't go to school without being photographed? When he kissed her, cutting off the spiral of anxiety. When he pulled back, her eyes were wide. I love you, he said simply. That doesn't change because things get hard. That's not how love works. How does it work? Like this. You're spiraling. I pull you back. Tomorrow I'll be spiraling and you'll pull me back. We take turns being strong for each other. That's how we get through. Victoria rested her forehead against his. I don't deserve you. Stop saying that. You deserve everything. They went to bed holding each other, and Evan lay awake long after Victoria fell asleep, thinking about Marcus and courts and the long fight ahead. But when he looked at the woman in his arms, he knew it would be worth it. The next morning brought an unexpected development. Jennifer called at 7 before Evan had even finished his first coffee. Turn on channel 7, now. Evan grabbed the remote, found the local news. Victoria appeared in the kitchen, hair wet from the shower, freezing when she saw what was on screen. It was Margot, sitting in a TV studio, being interviewed. Decided to speak out, she was saying, because I've watched my son conduct a campaign of harassment against his sister for weeks now, and I've had enough. The interviewer leaned forward. You're talking about Marcus Hale's legal challenge to your daughter's marriage? I'm talking about Marcus's pattern of behavior. This isn't about protecting my late husband's legacy. This is about Marcus's greed and his resentment that his sister is more capable than he is. Those are strong accusations. They're true accusations. Let me be very clear. Victoria's marriage may have begun as an arrangement to meet the will's requirements, but it's become a genuine relationship. I've watched them together. I've seen how they look at each other, how they care for each other, how Victoria has opened her heart in ways I never thought possible. That's real. And my son is trying to destroy it because he can't stand that she's happy. Marcus has alleged that the marriage is fraudulent. Marcus has alleged many things over the years, most of them untrue. He's a narcissist who believes he deserves everything his sister has earned through hard work and dedication. When my husband made Victoria his successor, Marcus was furious. He's been looking for ways to undermine her ever since. This is just the latest attempt. Victoria's hand found Evan's, squeezing hard. Furthermore, Margot continued, I'm announcing today that I'm removing Marcus from the board of the Margot Hale Foundation and cutting off his access to the family trust. I will not enable his destructive behavior any longer. That's a significant step. It's an overdue step. My daughter deserves better. Her husband deserves better. And their daughter, my granddaughter, deserves to grow up without this toxicity. Margot looked directly at the camera. Marcus, if you're watching, you've lost. Not because the board voted against you, but because you've lost your family. Victoria has built something beautiful with Evan and Sophie. Something you'll never understand because you don't know how to love anything except power. I'm done watching you try to destroy people who are just trying to be happy. The interview ended. Victoria was crying, clutching Evan's hand so hard it hurt. She defended us, publicly. She defended you, Evan said. Her daughter. She cut Marcus off, completely. Jennifer called back. Did you see it? We saw it, Victoria managed. It's already viral. Every major news outlet is picking it up. Social media is going crazy. The narrative has completely shifted. Marcus looks like a vindictive brother attacking his sister's happiness. You two look like victims of family drama. What does this mean for the injunction? It means his lawyers are going to have a much harder time arguing this is about protecting your father's will when your mother, the surviving spouse, is publicly calling it a vendetta. I'd say his case just got significantly weaker. After Jennifer hung up, Victoria just stood there, staring at the blank TV screen. I need to call her, she said finally. Margot answered on the first ring. I suppose you saw. Mom, why did you didn't have to. Yes, I did. I've enabled Marcus's behavior for too long, made excuses, hoped he'd change, but watching him try to destroy your marriage, your happiness, that was the line. Margot's voice softened. You deserve to be happy, Victoria, and you are happy with Evan. I can see it. Everyone can see it except Marcus, and that's because he doesn't want to see it. Thank you, Victoria whispered. I don't know what to say except thank you. You don't have to say anything. Just promise me you'll keep fighting for what you've built. Don't let Marcus take this from you. I won't. We won't. After they hung up, Victoria turned to Evan. My mother just went to war for us. Yeah, she did. She's never done anything like that before. Chosen my side so publicly, so completely. Maybe she was waiting for something worth fighting for. Someone worth fighting for. Victoria kissed him, hard and desperate and grateful. When she pulled back, she was smiling through tears. I love you. I love you too. Sophie wandered out, rubbing her eyes. Why is everyone so loud? It's still sleeping time. Sorry, sweetheart, Evan said, scooping her up. Big news. Grandma Margot did something very brave. What did she do? She stood up for our family. That is brave, Sophie agreed seriously. Can I have pancakes? Life continued in that strange way it does, the monumental and the mundane existing side by side. The legal battle with Marcus dragged on, but with diminished intensity. His lawyers filed motions. Victoria's lawyers filed counter motions. But the press had turned against him. Public opinion had shifted. Even some of the board members who'd been neutral started speaking out in support of Victoria. 2 weeks after Margot's interview, Marcus's lawyers reached out about a settlement. He wants out, Jennifer explained, spreading the proposed terms across the dining table. Complete withdrawal of all legal challenges in exchange for a severance package and a seat on the advisory board, which is purely ceremonial, no actual power. He's surrendering, Victoria said, not quite believing it. He's cutting his losses. Between your mother's statements and the negative press and the fact that every attempt to prove your marriage is fraudulent has failed, he knows he can't win. What do you think? Victoria asked Evan. I think you should take it, end this, move on with our lives. Just like that? Just like that. Marcus gets a consolation prize. You get your company and your peace. We get our family. Everyone wins. Victoria signed the settlement that afternoon. That night she came home early for the first time in weeks, found Evan and Sophie in the living room building a blanket fort, kicked off her heels, crawled inside and joined them. We're hiding from dragons, Sophie explained. Are we winning? Victoria asked. Obviously. We have the magic sword. Sophie held up a cardboard tube. Obviously. They ordered pizza, ate it in the blanket fort, watched a movie on Evan's laptop balanced on a stack of books. Sophie fell asleep between them, and neither adult wanted to move her. This is nice, Victoria whispered. Yeah. Normal. Quiet. Just us. Welcome to regular family life. She smiled. I like it. The official 30-day mark came and went without ceremony. Day 31, Victoria woke up next to Evan and realized they'd crossed some invisible threshold. The arrangement was over. The marriage was real. And nothing had changed except now they were choosing this consciously, deliberately, without any external pressure. Morning, Evan said, still half asleep. Morning, we did it. 30 days. Technically, 31. Are you going to divorce me now that the requirement is met? She was joking, but there was something vulnerable underneath. Not a chance. You're stuck with me. Good. She kissed him. Because I'm keeping you. A month later, they had a real wedding. Not City Hall with a bored clerk, but an actual celebration. Small, intimate, just close friends and family. Margot cried. Jennifer caught the bouquet and looked horrified. Sophie was the flower girl and took her job very seriously, making sure every single petal landed exactly where it should. Evan's vows made Victoria cry. He talked about unexpected chances and finding love in the last place he expected, and becoming a family with a woman who made dinosaur pancakes even though she didn't really know how. Victoria's vows made him cry. She talked about walls coming down and learning to be vulnerable and finding a man who saw her, really saw her, and loved what he saw. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife for the second time, their kiss was real and long and earned a round of applause from their small gathering. At the reception, held in Margot's garden because Sophie had insisted on seeing the peacocks, Evan found himself standing with Margot, watching Victoria dance with Sophie, both of them laughing. You've been good for her, Margot said. She's been good for me. No, I mean it. I've never seen my daughter this happy, this free. You gave her permission to be human. She gave herself permission. I just showed up at the right time. Don't be modest. You loved her when she didn't think she was lovable. That's a gift. Margot paused. My husband, Victoria's father, he was brilliant but cold. He taught her that emotions were weakness, that vulnerability was failure. You've shown her the opposite. That's everything. Evan didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded. Later, when the party wound down and guests started leaving, Sophie found Evan and Victoria sitting together on a bench near the fountain. This was the best day, she announced, climbing into Victoria's lap. Even better than the museum. Even better than the museum? Victoria said, mock scandalized. High praise. Yep, because today you married Daddy for real. Not the first time, that was practice. This was the real one. Evan and Victoria looked at each other, something warm passing between them. You're absolutely right, Victoria said. This was the real one. And we're a real family now, forever and ever. Forever and ever, Victoria agreed, and her voice only shook a little. 6 months later, life had settled into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Victoria still worked long hours, but she came home for dinner most nights. Evan had been promoted at work. Turned out being married to the CEO had some advantages, though he'd earned the promotion on his own merits. Sophie was thriving in her new school, making friends, still obsessed with dinosaurs, but now also interested in space. They'd moved to a real house with a yard and a purple front door that Sophie had insisted on. It wasn't as grand as the penthouse, but it was theirs, filled with mismatched furniture and Sophie's artwork on the fridge, and 2 coffee mugs permanently living on the counter because both Victoria and Evan needed caffeine to function. The trust fund had been established as promised. The debts paid off. But Evan and Victoria kept those details quiet. This wasn't about the money anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. Marcus had disappeared from their lives. He'd taken his severance and moved to New York, reportedly dating an actress and spending his days doing very little. Margot had kept her word. He was cut off from the family money beyond his settlement. They didn't talk about him. He was a closed chapter. One evening in late fall, Evan came home to find Victoria in the kitchen attempting to make dinner. Attempting being the key word. There was flour everywhere. "What are you doing?" "Making homemade pasta. Sophie said she wanted spaghetti, and I thought..." Victoria looked at the disaster surrounding her. "I thought wrong. This is chaos. Why didn't you just buy pasta?" "Because I wanted to, I don't know, be domestic. Do the mom thing." Evan kissed her flour-dusted nose. "The mom thing is making sure she's fed and happy and loved. It doesn't have to be from scratch. But the Pinterest boards are lies, complete lies. No one actually makes everything from scratch while working 60-hour weeks. Let's order pizza and pretend we meant to have Italian takeout night." Victoria laughed, relieved. "Deal." They ordered pizza. Sophie was thrilled because pizza was her favorite anyway. They ate in the backyard, wrapped in blankets because it was cold, but Sophie wanted to eat under the stars. She pointed out constellations she'd learned in school, most of which she got wrong, but neither adult corrected her. "This is perfect," Sophie said. "Our family is perfect." "We're not perfect," Victoria said gently, "but we're ours." "That's better than perfect," Sophie decided. Later, after Sophie was asleep, Evan found Victoria in their bedroom staring at the picture Sophie had drawn months ago, the one with the purple door. "Thinking?" he asked. "She drew this before she even knew about the house, about the purple door we'd end up painting together. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe she knew before we did that this was going to work, that we were going to be a real family. Kids are perceptive." Victoria turned to face him. "I need to tell you something." His heart jumped. "Okay. I'm pregnant." The world tilted. "What?" "I found out yesterday. I wanted to be sure before I said anything, but we're..." She looked terrified and hopeful and excited all at once. "We're going to have a baby." Evan crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. "We're having a baby. Are you happy? I know we didn't plan this." "I'm thrilled. Terrified, but thrilled." "Does Sophie know?" "Not yet. I wanted to tell you first." They told Sophie the next morning over breakfast. She screamed so loud the neighbors probably heard, then spent 20 minutes asking if the baby would like dinosaurs, and could they name it Blue Jr., and when could she teach it about velociraptors. "Maybe let's wait until the baby is born before we start the dinosaur curriculum," Evan suggested. "But then we'll be behind," Victoria laughed, her hand resting on her still flat stomach, her eyes bright with tears that were happy for once. The baby came in early summer. A girl. They named her Grace, and she had Evan's dark hair and Victoria's eyes. Sophie was an enthusiastic big sister, insisting on helping with everything and singing dinosaur songs to Grace when she cried. Margot visited often, softer now, gentler with her granddaughters than she'd been with her own children. She told Grace stories about her grandfather, about building companies and taking chances, editing out the cold parts and leaving just the legacy. One afternoon when Grace was 6 months old, Evan found Victoria in the nursery, holding their daughter, crying quietly. "Hey, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right, too right. I keep waiting for something to go wrong because this much happiness can't possibly last." "Why not?" "Because it never has before. Because every good thing in my life has come with conditions or ended badly or this is different. This is yours, ours. And we built it together from a ridiculous arrangement that should never have worked, but did because we let it. Victoria looked up at him, Grace sleeping peacefully in her arms. How did I get so lucky? We both got lucky. Two desperate people who found each other at exactly the right moment. The wrong moment, Victoria corrected. The worst possible moment. The perfect moment, Evan insisted. Because any other time, any other circumstances, we probably wouldn't have given each other a chance. We needed the desperation, the arrangement, the forced proximity, all of it. So you're saying the ends justify the means? I'm saying sometimes the universe pushes you exactly where you need to be, even if the push looks like a business arrangement and a ticking clock and 30 days that change everything. Victoria smiled. That's very philosophical for someone who once told me he was just a regular guy from Indiana. I'm a regular guy from Indiana who married way up and got lucky. You didn't marry up. We married each other, equal partners. Equal partners, he agreed, kissing her forehead. They stayed like that for a while, the three of them in the soft afternoon light of the nursery, in the house with the purple door, in the life they'd built from a lie that became truth. Years later, when Sophie was 12 and Grace was 6, and they'd added a dog named Blue Jr. to the family, someone asked Victoria about her marriage, how she'd known Evan was the one, how they'd made it work despite their different backgrounds. We didn't know, Victoria said honestly. We took a chance, a calculated risk. And somewhere along the way, the calculation stopped mattering and the risk became the best decision I ever made. Was it love at first sight? No, it was love at first 30 days, which sounds less romantic but is actually more real, because we didn't fall in love with fantasy versions of each other. We fell in love with the messy, complicated, real versions, and that's stronger. At home that night, she told Evan about the conversation. Love at first 30 days, he repeated. I like that. It's true. Day 1, you were terrified. Day 10, you were tolerating me. Day 20, you were falling for you, completely, irrevocably. Day 30? Day 30, I knew I'd never let you go. They were sitting in their backyard watching Sophie teach Grace some complicated handshake, while Blue Jr., who was actually a golden retriever and not a dinosaur, supervised. The evening was perfect, warm and golden and theirs. Do you ever think about how different our lives would be if you'd said no? Victoria asked. If you'd walked out of my office that day and never looked back? Sometimes, but then I look at this. He gestured to their daughters, their dog, their home. And I can't imagine it. Can't imagine my life without you in it. Me neither. Which is terrifying because I spent so many years convinced I didn't need anyone. You didn't need anyone. You just hadn't met the right someone yet. Victoria leaned her head on his shoulder. Thank you. For what? For taking a chance on a ridiculous arrangement with a woman who had no idea how to be loved. Thank you for taking a chance on a broke single dad who had no idea how to save himself. We saved each other. Yeah, we did. Sophie ran over, Grace trailing behind. Dad, can we get a trampoline? Absolutely not. But Victoria said we'd think about it, Victoria corrected, shooting Evan an amused look. Thinking is not the same as yes. But nothing. Go play. Dinner's in an hour. The girls ran off, arguing good-naturedly about trampolines and whether Blue Jr. would like to jump on one. Victoria and Evan sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching the sun set over their carefully constructed life. No regrets? Victoria asked. Not a single one. Even when I'm impossible? Especially when you're impossible. It keeps things interesting. She laughed, and the sound was light and free and completely unself-conscious. The sound of someone who'd learned how to be happy. That night, after the girls were asleep and the house was quiet, Evan found Victoria going through old photos on her laptop. She'd pulled up images from that first City Hall wedding, awkward and uncertain, both of them looking like they were attending a business meeting rather than getting married. Look how terrified we were, she said, pointing to the screen. You were terrified. I was in shock. Same thing. She clicked to another photo. The gala, them dancing, looking slightly less awkward. Then the estate, them walking together, starting to look like an actual couple. Then the real wedding, where they looked like people actually in love. We got better at it, Evan observed. We stopped pretending. Yeah. She closed the laptop, turned to face him. I love you. I know I say it all the time now, but I want you to know I mean it. Every single time. Not because I'm supposed to or because it's what married people say, but because it's true. I know. And I love you. Every version of you. The CEO and the mom and the woman who burns pasta and the person who holds me when I'm worried about money, even though we don't have to worry about money anymore. Old habits. Good habits. They keep us grounded. Remind us where we came from. Where we came from, Victoria repeated. A desperate arrangement and 30 days and the most unlikely love story ever told. The best love story ever told, Evan corrected. That too. They went to bed, and as Evan drifted off to sleep with Victoria in his arms, a position so familiar now it felt like breathing. He thought about that terrified man who'd walked into a billionaire's office expecting to be fired and walked out with an impossible offer. That man could never have imagined this. This house. This family. This life. But that man had been brave enough to say yes, to take the chance, to walk into the unknown, and it had led him here, to everything, to home. Somewhere in the house, one of the girls stirred, and he heard Victoria's breathing change as she registered the sound. Her mom instincts always on, even in sleep. But it was just a sleep sound, nothing urgent, and she relaxed again. In the morning, there would be breakfast chaos and work deadlines and carpools and all the beautiful mundane complications of their cobbled-together family. But right now, there was just this peace, this certainty, this love that had started as a transaction and become everything. Evan Carter, struggling single dad from Chicago, had married a billionaire to save himself from drowning, and Victoria Hale, lonely CEO, convinced she was unlovable, had married a stranger to save her company. What they'd saved, in the end, was each other. And that was worth more than any amount of money or power or success. That was worth everything.